All right. So anyway, welcome to the program. It's here. My name is Alex, and I'm with Reporterfy Media. I'm a good friend of Patrick Lancaster's. Patrick is in the studio here. He called me up earlier today, and he said to me, "You're not going to believe what I have for a live stream today." And I said, "Tell us what it is, Patrick." Well, here we are tonight, or this afternoon, or the morning, wherever you are. We have a special guest on the show tonight. Now, as you guys know, Patrick has been following this situation very seriously here in Armenia. And Patrick, I'm going to go over to you, and you can introduce today's guest. And I have a lot of questions for you guys.
Yes, thanks for that, Alex. And I just want to say it's a great pleasure to have Hayk here with us. We actually met not too long ago in Armenia, and very unique story he has. Born in the USA, came to Armenia, fought in the war between Artsakh, Armenia, and Azerbaijan, and he can definitely tell you a lot more about his story, and this is going to be some great information we're going to be able to receive from him. So, Hayk, can you please tell us a little bit about your story, your life, and what you've been doing?
Are you sure you want to? Are you sure you want to jump into it like that, Patrick? Do we want to jump into it right away? Let's give this gentleman a proper introduction. Hayk, tell us how old you are, where you're from, and what are you currently doing right now?
Well, first of all, guys, thank you for the invite. It's an honor to be here to express my point of view and to tell my story. I mean, my story. It's not that long, right now I'm 31 years old. I was born and raised in the United States, like Patrick said. I got my education there. I got my master's degree in 2015 from California State University, Northridge. I actually taught a couple of years at CSUN as well, and at Glendale Community College before moving out. I decided I wanted to serve my country, come back to my roots, and that's what I did. I came back. I ended up living here, and when the war broke out, I joined. That's just a quick summary, just a introduction.
Thank you very much for that. And I think it's important to understand that this situation is still fluid. Things are far from over. The news media has not shined its light on this story at the moment. But I'm just going to go to the comment section, gentlemen. And I just want to say a big thank you to everybody that has joined tonight. We do also agree on an open forum. But guys, keep it civil. If you don't keep it civil, unfortunately, eventually, by rules here that we have to abide by on YouTube as well, as we got to give you the boot, but we don't want that to happen today. So you guys are more than welcome to follow the chat in the side column. And I just want to let all the viewers know that, of course, there's a lot of different languages in there. If you are running this on Google Chrome, just right click on the Chrome page, translate to whatever language you want, and you can follow what all the viewers are saying. So I've got a couple of comments that I'm just going to bring up here. Here we go. This one here. There we go. That one's, I'm going to, if you want to answer that, Hayk, that's from Jareth Kopis. Thank you for the question, Jareth.
Sure. I mean, to be honest, I actually read a couple of the comments before going live, and a lot of people think I am some kind of a mercenary. Those Azeris think I'm some kind of a mercenary from America, or I have some special training, like I'm some Navy SEAL or some Ranger. The truth is, I have absolutely no military experience from the United States. I'm actually just a college professor, like I said. And the only military experience I had before the war was actually over here when I was at Tavush, the region Tavush, just guarding the front over there for about 6 months. That's the only military experience I had. But other than that, the military picture that I have, that's just me at the desert or at the forest or in the mountains, just shooting,
Hi, do you mind if I show some of these photos? Are you okay with that?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Okay, so we're just Hayk sent us some photos to Patrick earlier. Now, we're going to end up covering our faces here to show them, but I'm going to walk through a few of them. How about we start off at a very young age? You okay with that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Who's this guy?
Yeah, that's me. That cute little kid is me. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
I believe I was like 2. Actually, I don't have the date of this photo though, but I believe I was about 2 years old. Yeah. Yeah. Chubby cheeks. You know, that's just me at Glendale Community College. After I dropped out of high school, what did I do? I just worked at like minimum wage jobs for a couple of years before deciding to go back to school, and I just enrolled in Glendale Community College. That's like one of the pictures there. Yeah, it's actually one of the nicest campuses in America. Actually, Glendale Community College.
Yeah, it looks quite. What city is that in? Where is that?
Glendale, California.
Ah, very nice, very nice. Yeah. And would that be this guy, I guess, too, huh?
Yeah. That's just actually that's when I first started to teach at Glendale Community College. Yeah, after I got my master's degree. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, master's, nice.
Yeah, so far from being a mercenary, far from being Navy SEAL. Yeah, that's just one of the first pictures of me during the Artsakh War, this war that I just joined in. Yeah, that's just me back in, I believe, 2015, just target practicing in the desert, Mojave Desert, one of our favorite spots to go to. We just took a bunch of watermelons, a bunch of cantaloupes, and just did some target practicing. Yeah, this was towards the end of the war, actually. This was, I believe, the war hadn't ended yet, but we had just finished our shell. Every trench had a shell. We had to remodel it. We had to fix it up so we could be able to live there during the winter, and that's what we were working on. And
so you were
right when we finished it, yeah, definitely. There was a lot of work. We did a lot of labor. It wasn't just guarding posts. Half the people guarding, half the people were building.
I've got another question on the screen here. Maybe if you want me to read it, I can read it anyway to the viewers here. It's Hayk. How was it in the Tavush front? Were there unmanned aerial vehicles being used by the Azerbaijan army?
Well, the Tavush front, I served, what was it, the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, it was obviously peaceful. There was all I heard was just gunshots. There was no, cannons or mortars or anything like that being used. It was during peacetime. It was just a good experience to actually be there, and be able to, get used to being in the trenches, being the weather, getting used to all of that. It was just it was something new, leaving California, the sunny state, and going into the muddy trenches of Tavush. It's not something that, you take lightly, but it was a good experience overall. I'm glad that I did it.
Now, just to before I interrupt you there, Patrick, I just want to say thank you to everybody that's joining the program tonight. We have about 120 people on this program. Remember that Patrick Lancaster, his page has been demonetized by YouTube. Nothing surprising there. He is an independent crowdfunded journalist. You can see all the details down below in the box there, his Patreon, his PayPal, his Buy Me a Coffee, stuff like that. It takes incredible guts for both of these gentlemen to be on, in that area during its turbulent times. And I just want to say a big shout out. Why am I on this program tonight? Well, Patrick and I have known each other for a few years. We do travel to some bizarre countries. I have not been caught in a country that's been under conflict with him at the same time, but nothing would surprise me moving forward. Patrick, you had a question? Go ahead.
I want to move back a bit to the Tavush thing. You said that even in peacetime, there was actually, you heard gunfire, that there was exchange gunfire? Yeah,
gunfire is always there. Since the ceasefire in '94, there's always been gunfire.
Wow.
Even right now in Artsakh, at the front, there's still gunfire. It's when they start using more, heavy weaponry that's when it's a sign that it's not at peace anymore. The war has started.
And Tavush itself is actually, if I'm not mistaken, towards the southern parts of Armenia.
Oh, northern.
North
Yeah,
part.
yeah. It's
So basically-
Artsakh, Geharkunik, and then Tavush, basically.
And so basically, you've got Artsakh to the south, and then you're bordering from main Armenia to Azerbaijan. And you're saying all the time there right now, there's firing back and forth, yeah?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, gunfire was a regular thing. We heard that every day, and there wasn't any like reconnaissance either. The only reconnaissance that was used was the unmanned aerial vehicles. That's the only reconnaissance they used. They didn't send any troops. Very rarely. It was very rarely. Not where I was. I didn't see anything like that. It was just gunfire.
I just want to say thank you to everybody that's joined the program tonight. And this is an interactive program. That means you, the audience, we need you to take part of this program as well, peacefully. And we have a question from Alex X on the screen here for you, Hayk, or for Patrick, if one of you guys could answer it. Can he elaborate on what can drone add to the Armenian military in the Karabakh? Can you pronounce that for me? Karabakh region, and could the war break out again? Thank you. If you could answer that, please.
You want to take it, Patrick, or you want me to answer it again?
If I'm understanding this, I think they're asking if Armenians had more drones, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well,
so
I mean, any military that has more drones is gonna have an advantage.
Yeah, I mean, that's for sure. I mean, from what I saw, me being there during the war, I mean, the drone warfare was just, the skies were dominated by Azerbaijan because of their drones. They didn't have to worry about losing life and things. I mean, me just, of course, I had a totally different experience than Hayk being at the front line every day, but me going from city to city and region to region, always worrying about what's in the sky above us and seeing drones come down. It was such a different war than I have been in before. I've been in the Ukraine war, covering that for the last 6 years, and I've been under intense shelling and attacks, but never had the fear like I did in Artsakh. Just such a mind-boggling experience, not knowing when and what direction the drones were coming from. Total mindfuck, basically.
And thank you for keeping the language in check there, Patrick. The thing about what a lot of people don't understand here, and I'm going to put this question up on the screen here, and I'm going to let the audience answer it. Al, let me answer this for you, Patrick, first. You have to understand in this world that people want to go out and they want to try to find news. So who do we have as news agencies today in the world? We have government-funded agencies like the BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation, funded by the United Kingdom taxpayers. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, which is funded by the Canadian government. So we have a gentleman, his name is Patrick Lancaster. He goes out there on his own dime. He goes into the middle of the war zone. He's showing you with video. He's showing you by interviews what he sees in that area. Now, it's not necessarily easy to go from one side to the other side, back to the other side. Would you like to cross two front lines at one time? I'm not sure that's the smartest thing to do. And I'm pretty sure the countries that are fighting with each other are defending certain borders. So we've had this discussion before, and I'm not trying to corner you, Al, on this. I'm just trying to say that I greatly appreciate both gentlemen that are on here today for their courage. It takes a lot in today's world to go out there on your own dime, your own time, when you got friends, families, loved ones, children at home to try to tell a story. It's incredibly difficult to do. And when I read comments like that, I'm going to bring them up at the start of the show to get this whole thing about, is he pro-Armenia? Is he anti-this, anti-that? We had the discussion on this live stream a few weeks ago. Someone asked the same question. Patrick, why aren't you in Azerbaijan? Well, maybe you can enlighten us a little bit more on this.
Well, for one, some media sources that go into war zones. They'll come in for a couple of days, and maybe they'll have one correspondent, maybe on each side of the contact line. In other wars that happens, in the Ukraine war at the beginning, that happened. Some agencies had some on both sides, but to think a single journalist can go back and forth, especially in such a short war as just 6 weeks, is ridiculous. It's not possible. But for me, I don't go to one place for a couple days. I stay for an extended period of time, and I always try to keep my opinions out of it, which is very hard because I see what the people are living on a daily basis and see the hardships they're going through caused by the other side. Now, in this case with Azerbaijan, the fact is that it is extremely hard for a journalist in the normal instances to go into Azerbaijan and report on this war, let alone if they've already been in Armenia. And in addition to that, even just a normal civilian, if they have an Armenian stamp, they are not allowed to go into Azerbaijan as well. So basically, there's several layers that Azerbaijan has put in place to keep me from reporting on that side. And because I've been reporting on what's been happening to the civilians as a result of the attacks from Azerbaijan, I actually get death threats on social media on a daily basis. So no, it's not possible for me to report in Azerbaijan. It's just anybody that suggests it knows that's the case.
I'd like to add that I don't know why these Azeris are complaining. I mean, BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, they're all pro-Azeri. They're all showing the news in favor of the Azeris. They're just basically spreading propaganda for them. And we have Patrick there on his own, spreading the truth about the war, the objective truth, which is pro-Armenian in this case, and they're complaining.
And let's not forget, guys, that, sorry about that, Hayk, just a studio issue. Let's not forget that Patrick is not on a payroll of a mainstream media entity here. He's on his own dime and his own time, and the viewers that help support this journalism. I haven't seen this type of journalism in the last time I actually saw some real interesting journalism was back during the the first NATO invasion that was going on in Yugoslavia. That's when I saw some real journalists. But ever since then, if somebody wants to report on a country, guess what? They're sitting in the hills 1,500 miles away saying, well, tonight, we're going to give you an update on the Armenian-Azerbaijan war, and we're live from Italy or something like that. They'll throw a bizarre backdrop of a country that's 2,000 miles away. They're not there. Please, I'm saying to the people that are watching this tonight, this is a treat for you, okay? Sure, not everybody's going to agree, and that's why we're here, to answer your questions. We're all cool and calm. We're in the studio. When else can you have somebody that has been on the ground, in combat, and a reporter there at the same time? So let's get these questions out to the viewers here.
And who's speaking English at the same time.
Sorry?
And who speak English at the same time, both of them, you know?
Yeah, there we go. So Game Night said Patrick is telling the news, not spinning the truth. United States media news outlets do have extreme bias, where even Patrick was biased a little. That's human nature. He's a human and everyone else. Let's not forget, okay? And I know I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but let's not forget they've de-platformed Patrick. They've pretty much made it very difficult. You got to remember, when he's putting out videos on YouTube, there's no monetization going on these videos. So let's be fair here, okay? Like, if he was getting 10 million views and you saw 3 or 4 commercials during this, okay, you might have a point. But being demonetized and still getting out there on a daily basis doing this for your viewers, my hat's off to you. Okay, so let's continue to move on here. And let's see, who else have we got here? What's this? Guys, maybe comment on this. This is interesting.
Yeah.
Anybody want to comment on that?
If that's the case, it'll be very interesting. I bet a lot of people would like it, but I'm not really sure on that exact instance or not if Artsakh people will be getting Russian passports, because it's not like this. The ceasefire is making Artsakh part of Russia. I mean, the Russian peacekeepers are there right now, but as far as them getting Russian passports, I'm not sure. It would kind of surprise me.
That's an interesting point there, Patrick, when you say that there's Russian peacekeepers there. But let's look at a little bit of the history where there's Russian peacekeepers and what kind of happens in the end. Can you say that about the Donetsk area? Was there Russian passports handed out in the Donetsk area?
Yes, but never peacekeepers.
Right, I understand that, but I'm just saying this could happen in Transnistria. Eventually,
I think a big part of the separation there is the people of Donetsk and Donbass. They actually, they want to join Russia. We can, and they after 5 years finally got their passports. Now we can jump over to Abkhazia, where I've also reported on. Now they don't actually, from what my experience being there, Abkhazia, the people there don't actually want to join Russia. They just want to be their own independent country and part of Russia, but they also have Russian passports. So there's kind of many different ways about it. Like possibly Donetsk and Donbass is going to be part of Russia one day, whenever that happens, because that's what the people want. Abkhazia, I don't think so. Certainly Artsakh, I don't believe will become part of Russia.
We got a question from Double A on the screen here. How will Armenia recover from the loss? Psychology.
Well, I could answer that. I mean, Armenia has recovered from far worse things than this. I mean, our whole history has been full of wars and genocides. I mean, we've overcome a genocide just last century. So we'll definitely overcome this. It's just maybe this was needed for us to wake up. We were too busy internally fighting amongst each other, and now this is a good wake-up call for us to understand who our true enemies really are and what they're planning to do with us. So we just have to turn our weakness into strength, at this point.
So I've got a question from Al Pacino TV. Very cool. I didn't know Al Pacino had a television station, but anyway, here he is here. But this could be a little hot answer. Why is he lying about a report and calling Azerbaijan soldiers as terrorists while the whole world recognize, Karabakh as part of the Azerbaijan? Who's the aggressor here?
Well, by he, who does he mean? Me or?
I guess. Well, let's throw it on to you. Why not?
Me? I mean, I don't know where these people keep thinking that Karabakh or Artsakh is part of Azerbaijan. It's never been part of independent Azerbaijan. Let's get that clear. It was only a part of the Soviet Azerbaijan Republic, and that's because of the communist regime, which decided to do that. But it's always been historically part of Armenia. And all historical evidence points to that. So we got to make that clear. They're the ones being the aggressors, not us.
So let's change it up here a little bit, guys. And I'm going to throw a bit of a twist into tonight's chat here because since you came from the United States and you have now a current administration change going on here in about 12 days, we did have the storming of the Capitol there. That was quite a sight to see here. I'm in Asia, by the way, guys, just so you know, and I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant a little bit later, but not right now. But with the new administration coming in here, how is that going to change the situation? Is there going to be some American involvement here coming up? Do you feel it?
As far as in the between Azerbaijan and Armenia?
No, I'm just saying in that region right now. I mean, that war. I mean, it started fast. It was like a match fire, just bang. Are we going to see some involvement here? Where are the nearest? I mean, our viewers probably already know this, but where are the nearest U.S. military bases near there?
Well, if you ask me, I think any administration change makes no difference. I believe the same people in the United States are still running things in the background. Doesn't matter who becomes president. The same foreign policies is going to continue, and Iran is still going to be a target, I believe.
I tend to agree with you on that. And Patrick, jump in anytime. You can shut me up anytime. I tend to agree with you on that. But we've had an administration that was in there that kind of made it part of their mantra to say, look, we're going to bring people home. We're not going to get involved in the mess. It's too costly. All of this. They actually did do that for most part, right? I mean, I'm not getting political here on, Democrat, Republican. I'm just saying is Americans been quite relaxed on the aggressive front for the last 4 years, unless I've missed a few things here. But when you get administration changes, when you got a country that's printed $4.3 trillion in the last 9 months, this is a recipe to square off tabs, and some of these engines got to get going. I'm getting a bit concerned about the Americans here.
Well, as far as their interaction in Artsakh or Karabakh, I think they waited too long, regardless of the regime that comes in. And now the Russian peacekeepers are already there. I don't think they're going to inject. If they were going to inject, it should have been happening when the war was going on. Now Russia kind of has to clean up the situation. As far as the Democrats, coming to power, that's going to definitely hurt the people of Donbass and Donetsk, because with the Democrats coming in, there's going to be a lot more military aid going to Ukraine, which is going to in turn hurt the civilians of the anti-Ukraine government-held territories, the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republic.
But let me remind you something, Patrick. Mm-hmm. Now, you're the guy that goes into that area and you report like no one has ever reported before. You say that the Russian peacekeepers are on location. Well, they were in Crimea, right? Follow me there. Follow me with this, right? Okay. They were in Crimea. Crimea had its vote. Russia put its arm around and said, okay, no problem. And then the Donetsk, Luhansk area lit up like a Christmas tree. And hang on.
Okay.
But who was funding the Ukraine side of the artillery on this? And that's what I'm getting at. What's going on behind the scenes here? Is it the new administration that's going to come in? And I'm not trying to float conspiracy theories here at all. It's just we're ending a presidency here. Got to remember, who was the vice president of the United States when Donetsk and Luhansk went to hell in a handbag? Joe Biden.
Interesting parallel. Yeah. I just think Russia has become a lot too powerful. Like this last couple of years, America always wanted to do what it wanted in the region, but now Russia has come along and tried to balance things out the last decade or so. And to go back to Armenia, a lot of people are saying that this is a conspiracy from the Russians, whatever happened in Artsakh, that they wanted us to lose so that they could bring their peacekeepers and expand their empire. And we see from history that all the countries that did color revolutions, Ukraine, Georgia, they lost a piece of land. Ukraine lost Crimea, Georgia lost Ossetia, and now we had a color revolution in 2018 and we lost Artsakh, basically. But I believe that it's our own fault. I mean, if the people support someone, a whole team full of liars and deceivers who have been anti-Russian from day one, then what do you expect? You want them to pat you on the back? You want Russia to pat you on the back for bringing in a anti-Russian government into place? So I mean, it's our own fault that we make such stupid decisions and they just, take advantage of it. So we have to blame ourselves first before we try to point the finger at anyone else. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very, very good point. Can I ask you, Hayk,
Yeah.
how the hell do you get the courage?
For what?
Getting on an airplane and going over and defending your country. I mean, my father was in the military. My grandfather was in the military. During my childhood in Canada, we never had really many conflicts while I was growing up. But I can tell the viewers this, at least, that at the age of 18, I did go across the Canadian borders and try to sign up for the U.S. military at 18. Unfortunately, they would not enlist me because I was not a Canadian citizen at the time. Or, pardon me, I was not an American citizen, so they couldn't do it. The Army the officer said, "You're a great kid. Sorry, but you're going to have to turn your car back home and go to Maple Leaf Land in Canada." But I admire, doesn't matter, if we agree and disagree on this program, what's right or what's wrong, is how did you get the courage to get on an airplane and go over and defend your motherland?
Well,
how do you do stuff like that?
Well, it was just a calling, I didn't want to just I just felt that having that ordinary life, just staying there, working a regular job, it wasn't for me. And I felt like a calling right after I graduated school that I had to do something more. And, when we talk about courage, I always remember that line from Rocky V where he says the only difference between a hero and a coward is that the hero is willing to go for it. Both feel the same thing. So it makes no difference. I just decided to just go for it. I'm not calling myself a hero. The real heroes are the ones who did a lot of heroism during the war and who died doing so, And I was just a common frontline soldier. I didn't do anything heroic. I just did my duty, Like I said, I went back to my roots. I wanted to serve my fatherland that was in trouble. And I'm still here. I feel like this is just the beginning. I'm not going anywhere. So I got to do what I have to do.
Go ahead, Patrick, please.
I'm actually kind of surprised no one has asked this yet in chat, but can you explain to us what the moment was like when you were sitting on the front line and you first heard that the trilateral agreement was signed between Russia, Azerbaijan, and Armenia to give up parts of the majority of Artsakh? How did you feel at that moment, and your comrades and your other soldiers in your area?
Well, before I went to the front, I have to tell you that I was anti-Pashinyan, anti-Velvet Revolution since day one. So right when the war started, before I went, I told my father, I go like, you know what? I'll go to the front. I'll do my duty. I'll do whatever I have to do. But I just hope that these, politicians don't stab us in the back, And I felt that was coming. But when I went to the front, whenever I was there in the trenches, I was trying to be more optimistic. I wasn't trying to have a negative mindset because I knew that wouldn't affect me in a negative way. So I was just trying to be optimistic, not even thinking about all the bad stuff. But deep down inside, I knew something like this was going to happen, to be honest with you, deep down inside. And I remember that time, it was November 8th, I believe, the Battle of Shushi was going on. And that was like right behind us, because I was in Martak yet. The Battle of Shushi was like right behind us. And we saw the lights from the battle going on. And I was just surprised. I'm like, how did they even reach Shushi? That's supposed to be like the most guarded area in all of Artsakh. But now there's a battle going on there that didn't make any sense whatsoever. But, I saw that and I was like, wow, this is crazy. I feel like this battle is going to decide what's going to happen next. And then I was, we were working with shifts, obviously. Each one had to guard post for about 2 hours and such. It was my rest time, so I go and rest for like about an hour or two, and I wake up and I find out that the war is over. It was just a slap in the face. Like, I couldn't believe it. I mean, at the same time, I wasn't that shocked, but I still couldn't believe it. And then when I found out that all the lands are being given away, I was even more shocked, because I thought it might have ended with us losing maybe a few territories, but treason on this level, I did not expect. Even Pashinyan still surprised me when he did. I knew he was always a pathological, lying, treasonous scumbag, But even on the treason of this scale still surprised me. And we were just in shock for the rest of the days. I went back home November 14th, so like I was there 5 days after the war was over, and it was just a depressing scene, man. It was just awful, and I got a bad cold. I got really sick, and they sent me home. But it was just everyone was just depressed, confused. Just a horrible time.
There's another way to kind of look at this, and I can see how viewers and some of the people that are taking part of the chat tonight here, some people kind of view it as, wait a minute, AA says, I don't see it as a backstab from the politician leadership. We sadly were technologically unprepared. Do you agree with that point, or there is some truth to that point, though, isn't there?
I mean, yeah, we were not as prepared as Azerbaijan because obviously their military budget is much more than ours. Their whole military budget was equal to our whole entire budget. So obviously they had more weapons. But look, they tried in 2016. In 2016, in the 4-day war, they tried and they failed. They couldn't breach the gates of Artsakh. They tried militarily to do so, and that's why it didn't work. That's why they had to do some kind of a coup d'état to overthrow Serge Sarkisian, who wasn't giving away the lands to Azeris. And this is there's proof of this in the last conversation that got leaked between Lukashenko and Serge Sarkisian. The conversation they had back in 2016, Lukashenko was acting like the middleman, and he was trying to persuade Serge Sarkisian to give up the 5 regions, and Serge kept on declining. And Lukashenko even mentioned the fact that Aliyev was trying to bribe Serge Sarkisian, with $5 billion. Anyways, my point is that if they knew they were going to win this war, they would have started sooner. That's what I'm trying to say. And
okay,
I'm no general. I'm not even a captain. I'm just saying, my opinion is, if we fought this war, if there was decent leadership, no backstabbing, and everything was organized properly, yeah, we might not have been able to reach Baku and conquer Baku, but we would have been able to keep what's ours. There wouldn't be this kind of a embarrassing surrender that we had. Absolutely not. We would have been able to resist a couple of more months. Their mercenaries from Syria wouldn't be able to fight in the winter. There's no way. And plus they're losing a lot of their weapons. Almost all their tanks were gone. Azerbaijan.
So would it be?
There's a lot of things. Our air defense wasn't working.
So how does Armenia rebuild?
Oh man, it's going to be a gigantic task. I mean, first and foremost, we got to get this guy out of office. I don't know what the hell he's even doing still as prime minister. I mean, the fact that he's still running our country, talking about Pashinyan, the fact that he's still running our country isn't even a bigger embarrassment than the loss of the war. He should have been tried for treason, and punished accordingly. Not just him, his wife and his entire team. I mean, but the fact that they're still running our country just goes to show how confused and corrupted our people have become, unfortunately. And, and there's still people who still support Pashinyan, and Pashinyan supporters, excuse me, I'm just ranting a little bit.
No, please do.
Supporters, these Pashinyan supporters are like they truly represent the worst of our people. Like, they are the couch potatoes and the lemmings, and the sports fans, the people who can't think for themselves. And that's why first we got to fix that situation before we think about trying to rearm ourselves again,
Okay, so, guys, I'm going to just give you a little bit of an analogy of the area that's where I'm living right now. I'm in Southeast Asia. My YouTube channel is Reporterfy Media. I follow a lot of stuff in China, and I visit China. I've been to over 25 Chinese cities over the last 20 years, and I report a lot of stuff on China that people actually say that's not true. But even though you show it and you're there, like you, Patrick, and you show the advancements, and people still say, well, it's not true, but you're there and you continue to report and stuff like that. You see, where I'm going with this, guys, is as the administration in the United States, and I keep going back to this because we're talking about 2 key players here. And I want to kind of work with the audience here to kind of see where I'm going with this. It's going to get interesting, guys. It's going to, trust me, it'll get interesting. And just hear me out. The current administration printed over $4 trillion during this global pandemic, okay? Now, we're seeing stock markets at record highs. All right. As of today, it even reached another record high. And everyone's saying, well, what's going on? Bitcoin is at $43,000 or something like that. Okay. You're seeing these strange gyrations in currencies. You're seeing them in stock markets because, get ready for it, 25% of the entire money flow in history was printed in the last 16 months. Okay. And the check is going to come due soon. And somebody's going to have to be footing these bills when countries go under pretty turbulent times when it comes to, you know, inflationary problems. Now, who are the players ready for this? Experienced countries that know how to fight and defend themselves. That's number one. Number two, somebody that has one hell of a great logistics and we'll call it infrastructure, China. They haven't fired a shot since the 70s. Imagine the power of that military that hasn't even had to blow a cannon out of the, you know, out of one of their guns in the last 40 years. Now, they might not have experience, but we are going to see, this is my experience, guys, of being over here in Asia. We're going to see a shift here. And that shift involves Russia, involves your area, the Ukraine area, all this area, these Eastern Bloc countries, the Georgias, the Armenias, and stuff like that. This is where it's going to become important. And where I'm going with this is I'm saying that these countries have been working together. These are all part of the Silk Road initiative that China has been building for the last few years. Well, the rest of these worlds have been bickering about we should have that guy in power, that guy in power. The Chinese have been, dropping 10,000 kilometers of rail tracks every year. You know, three bullet trains in Europe, 2,880 in China. Okay, and that is gone all the way down. You follow it all the way down, goes up Mongolia, down into Russia, then, finds its way all down to Trieste in Italy, and then flows into Africa. The part that you're defending and fighting for right now is going to get some support from somewhere. And we got to remember, that's where I'm coming down to this, guys, is it's down to this new administration. Which side? Because they do it this, Patrick, you're American, come on. Which side are they going to choose? Because they got to choose one side. They're not peacekeepers. Since when have, and I'm not being mean here, but when has Western diplomats gone in and actually bargained for a nice, safe, peaceful agreement in the last 20 years? I haven't seen it. So that's what I'm concerned. You're talking about a country that's printed $4.3 trillion, 25% of the money supply, and you think it's going to be business as usual here in the next 12 months? There's going to be anarchy here. And I don't know which side the Americans are going to pick. And that's where I'm going to pose it to you guys, or maybe pose it to our, the forum here. You guys help us out here. Maybe you guys want to add in on that? I don't know. Is there any, where you were, is there any Chinese infrastructure building where you guys have been in Armenia? Do you see any influence from China in there yet?
Hayk know a little bit better than me, but
there's lately been a lot of pro-China influence over here lately. But we're just talking about economic problems and everything. I could see definitely, I'm no economist, but I could definitely see a global economic collapse coming soon. And that was probably one of the reasons why this war, took place, because now everyone benefited from this war except us. Everyone benefited. I mean, Britain now got what they wanted. They could get their oil much more easily from the Caspian. Russia now got their military base, second military base in the Transcaucasus region. Turks got their, 7 regions they took from us. So everyone benefited from this, and now that's just going to make everything much more easily for the energy to flow. But then that's on our behalf, They didn't even care about it.
But Hayk, we've just tickled the belly button here, and I'm getting the response that I wanted to get from the viewers here, and it's already starting. First one, game night. America is losing its strength in the world as much as it's losing control over its U.S. citizens. The fall of the United States empire will be felt across the world. Russia and China will take advantage. That's a new one. Here's another one. China's building a smart city in Armenia. There we go. I mean, these and maybe this is, I'm very inexperienced in what you guys do, but on the, the economic side and stuff like that, that's where, I follow what China does, and they get in there and they build and build and build. Now, here's another comment that come in. China and the U.S. are dependent on another economically, and ties will strengthen with Biden. Interesting. Good comment. Okay. Let's see. What else have we got here? No way Armenia should ally with Poland, Hungary, and South Korea. Comments, gentlemen?
I mean, why not? I mean, I don't see any problem with that. There's no reason we should not try to be allies with other nations who aren't our deliberate enemies. So I'm all for that. I'm all for building good diplomatic relations with.
Stan's got a question.
Countries. Yeah.
Does Armenia have alliance with Iran?
I mean, right now, I don't even know what's going on. I mean, before it did, I mean, under President Sarkisian and Robert Kocharian, the 2 former presidents, it was definitely more pro-Iran than it is now. In the past 2 years, ever since that so-called Velvet Revolution in 2018, they've been deliberately ruining diplomatic relations with Russia and Iran. For example, they were calling Iran's government an authoritarian regime, and Pashinyan was deliberately ruining relations with Russia by not greeting Putin where he had to at the airport or in front of the building, and many examples like that. I don't want to get into all that, but it deliberately ruined it, and now it's that's why they turned sides. That's why Iran and Russia, they became more pro-Azerbaijan than they did pro-Armenia this last 2.5 years. So I think that was done deliberately.
So tell me, gentlemen, what has happened to the area now when people are being asked to leave the area? Are they being escorted politely out of there? Are they saying, screw this, I'm burning my house to the ground? Forget this noise. I won't even leave the kitchen sink. What's going on?
Can I take this one?
Please take this one.
Yeah.
Fire away.
Well, for one, the trilateral agreement says that refugees can return to their homes that they lost. Now, as far as the Armenians in the areas that were given over to Azerbaijan, if I'm wrong, please, Hayk, you can correct me. But everyone that signed that agreement saying they could stay or they could return to their homes knew that was not possible. Armenians cannot go back to the land or stay in the land that is turned over to Azerbaijan because they would be killed, in my experience. Am I wrong here?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, the region is not handed over to Azerbaijan, the so-called green zones or whatever. I mean, no Armenian is going to even want to live there with their family. They're not going to risk living there if there is no safe buffer. Because any day, some Azeri, soldiers might get drunk and come over to the village and maybe kill an entire family or something like that. No one is going to risk living in those regions with their family because right now even the army is in a paralyzed situation. So the fact that they're saying, oh, you know what, we just got the 7 regions, you guys could live over there, do whatever you want. In reality, when they talked about 7 regions, they were talking about all of Artsakh, because without those 7 regions, Artsakh won't even be able to exist.
Yeah,
That
and
was
the fact is that everyone that signed this agreement knew that. Pashinyan knew it. Putin knew it. Aliyev knew it. They all knew that the part in that agreement saying that people can stay, Armenians can stay in their homes or go back to their homes, was totally bull, not possible. But they still left it for political correctness because they didn't want to admit that this was legalized ethnic cleansing of this territory. That's what that agreement did, was ethnically cleanse Armenians from those regions legally.
Well, that's a pretty powerful word there, Patrick.
He's right.
I mean,
I agree.
I mean,
this agreement removed ethnic Armenians from these lands. I guess,
right.
Thank God, they weren't all killed as normally happens in ethnic cleansing. But the fact is that land was cleansed of ethnic Armenians, and now all of the people there are now Azerbaijanis, and the Armenians left. And as you mentioned, they burned their homes as they left.
I understand that point, but you have to remember here that this was, a political, even though a lot of people don't agree with this, but it was a political agreement between two countries to come to this. Even though it could, in your hearts, guys, be the worst thing or the worst outcome, this was done on a political stage. So that basically, you could say the leader did a shitty deal, is what we would call it. And, he gave everything and the kitchen sink, and, the people got screwed.
Big time. I mean, I'm not a historian, but I could safely say this is probably one of the biggest backstabbings in modern warfare history. I mean, and I
can understand that. Hayk, I understand that. But can there be, and guys, I'm trying to be impartial here, okay? Can there be a way out of this if both people talk again? Let's say there's a new leader in Armenia. Is it possible to talk and negotiate, another deal, or is it too late for that?
Well, before we try to talk another deal, Armenia needs to rearm itself stronger than ever this time, and have true leadership run by real patriots, not by scumbags and traitors like Pashinyan and his entire team. That's what we need to do first before we talk about trying to sit down at a table and talk. We need to put in some work before we talk, and I believe that's the work that needs to be done.
Well, I mean, and we go to the history of the deals and the wars. I mean, in the 90s is when Azerbaijan lost a lot of this territory that was turned back over this time. They say, oh, well, our people were kicked out in the 90s or whatever during the first war from some of these regions. Well, yes, but then you can go back to when the Soviet Union gave this land to Armenian land to Azerbaijan, and Armenians had to leave. So, I mean, the fact is, it goes back and forth. But as Hayk said, this is historically Armenian land. I mean, in the areas that Azerbaijan says is their land, which Azerbaijan being a Muslim country, 96% of the population is Muslim. I stood in churches that are 700 years old and more. There's even older ones that I didn't make it into. There's Christian stones all across the country, and now those are being destroyed by Azerbaijan. And these are way older than the country of Azerbaijan, but Azerbaijan says that land is theirs. And I mean, the same thing happened in, I'm always mispronounce it, Nakhichevan. I think something like 26,000 Christian stones were destroyed by the Azerbaijan.
In Julfa.
Yeah.
And UNESCO did absolutely nothing about it. The whole world just sat back and watched. Yeah, like I said, this whole Zionist globalist media is anti-Armenian. They're always pro-Azerbaijan, like I said in the beginning. So I don't know what these Azeris are complaining about. All these media outlets are supporting their false narrative, their false point of view. And someone like you, who's actually out there in the front, risking his neck, are, saying saying the truth, saying the truth, and then they're complaining. So, yeah, it's just.
Well, guys, I'm not. Hayk, I'm not sure. Okay, let's give our viewers, a pat on the back, because they're coming to watch us, and they're coming to actually have a discussion. And unless both of us or all three of us are open-minded to hear other people's story, then they're saying, well, hey guys, you've got your one modus, and that is it. Now, I'm a believer in listening, then discussing, and trying to, understand where people come from. I'll give you an example, guys. I had a phone call last night from my mother in Canada, and she said to me, she was, deeply disturbed with what she was seeing in the Capitol in the United States of America. And she says, how can this happen? What's going on in America? How could they let that happen? And I said, well, people are upset. And when people get upset, they do things sometimes they regret later. And to see those views and the media actually, to be honest, guys, really downplayed what was going on in Washington. I was watching it. I thought, wow, not even really showing any crowds. Okay, a couple of people waving some flags. And then the next thing you know, you're getting it from independent journalists that are reporting that somebody's been shot. People have died. They're ripping the Senate into pieces. And
was it mentioning that? Or, I'm sorry about that.
It was done in such a way that it didn't feel, guys, to be honest, I expected, to see a lot more than what I saw the next day. Because I saw stuff the next day come out. Like, wow, that was getting nasty. Why didn't we see that? Why didn't we see their cameras being smashed up that night? We saw it the next morning. And, and it's interesting because you get this two types of sides, and two types of people want to take sides. So my mom called me up and she said, this is, absolutely disgraceful what has happened. They're smashing up the streets. And I said, well, why is the West happy that was going on in Hong Kong then?
Yeah.
They
like it when it happens on other people's soil, but when it happens on their soil, they don't like it.
And guys, I've got something interesting to say to you here. I'm going to read this to you guys. Okay. And I think it's quite fitting for the time. Okay. Let me just pull it up, and then we're going to head back into some deeper stuff here. And this was sent to me today. If the United States saw what the United States is doing in the United States, the United States would invade the United States to liberate the United States from the tyranny of the United States.
That's
so
very accurate.
That's what I'm saying, guys, is that I'm deeply concerned about this new administration coming in. Because, guys, I just want to go back in history. If we go back and we look at the NATO war, and we got a lot of veterans that are following this story and that are in our chat group that can help us. The NATO bombing of Yugoslavia in '99 from the 24th of March to the 10th of June. You got to remember that was 77 or 78 days of aerial bombardment in that country. And can somebody really honestly on this chat thing tell me why it started and why it got so aggressive? Because this happened around the same time where Bill Clinton was being impeached, right? Monica Lewinsky trial, maybe a few years before your days. But guys, it's just, I have a feeling that this area that you're in, I think things are just getting started.
Yeah, I believe that what happened in Serbia because Milosevic was anti-globalist, and he was doing things maybe the globalists didn't want. I don't know the full details about it, but I believe that's the reason why.
But Radovan was hanging out in public, one of his side guys for years, and he was a star. And he was one of the most wanted men in the world. No, but all I'm saying is that you got a major administration change coming up here. I mean,
True.
that is going to have that's going to have a reverb across the globe here. There's a lot of interesting shit that's going to go down in the next 100 days, because somebody's, they're going to they got to find some money here. So tell me, if Armenia needed to rebuild, and I'm not putting, I know you're a soldier, and I'm not putting this on you. What would it take? What would they need? Who could they rely on? And where do you think they lost this? And where do you think and how do you think they can get it back? Both you guys, help me out with that. How can Armenia rebuild? Who can support them?
Well,
and will there be?
You want to answer first, and then I'll go for it.
Go for it. You've been
right now. That's such a tough question to answer, because everything has been going so wrong lately for Armenia in this past 2.5 years. Basically, everything that was built in the last 30 years got destroyed. Like I said, all diplomatic relations, the army. We were known as like the strongest army in the whole Trans-Caucasus region, and now look at us. So we have to regain that and then some. We have a lot of work to do, basically. Yeah, we have to restore the relations that we had with all the countries that we don't have good relations with now. And
is it in the spirit of the people? Do you feel it?
It's through polarization. Some people are just completely given up. They want to leave. Another side, I feel like an emergence of nationalism is arising, a new kind where people are becoming more optimistic that something is about to change for the better. And it's a crazy time. That's all I could say. It's a very tough time for us. But like I said, we've overcome a much harder things. So we should be able to overcome this as well. And we need to stop relying on others. That's one thing that Armenian economy is so horrible, is because it's so dependent on outside influence, outside resources like tourists and outside investments and everything like that. And it's time for us to build a type of economy where we start producing instead of just receiving. We need to produce things. We need to put our brains to work. And we do have the brains, it's just we haven't used it properly.
So Hayk, who do you think would be a good partner to help you guys rebuild infrastructure and getting back to that? Do you think the Russians are good at that? Do you think the Chinese are good at that? The Vietnamese? Or
like I said, we should be able to build good relations with everybody, and maybe each country could help in some aspect where the other country can't. So we need to become allies with everybody who aren't our enemies.
So guys, I'm going to keep you here for a second. Patrick, if it's okay, this could get interesting here, since we got quite a few people watching the show today. I'm going to put a link out there, if that's okay with you, Patrick. This is your show, your channel.
No,
I'm going to put a link out there that if somebody wants to call in and come on to the show, we'll have you on the show. You can ask us some questions. If you're a jerk, I got a button that I can kick you off the show right away. But anybody who wants to come on the show today, I'll put a link into the chat box, and we'll bring you into the panel, and you can say what you want to say, as long as we're keeping it civil, right, gentlemen? And I'll put the link into the chat box. Basically, you don't even have to show your face on camera if you don't want to, but it's up to you. So we'll put that. I'm going to put that out to to the people that are watching. And let's continue on. I've got another question here from Doug Thompson. It's on the screen here. It says, what are the taxes like in Armenia? Is it hard to open a business in Armenia? This is a great question. Maybe I can get some Americans to immigrate there and invest. I have Vietnamese contacts as well. I mean, smart thinking there. Anybody have an idea what the tax is like in Armenia?
The business taxes? To be honest with you, I haven't opened a business here, so I don't know the details. I can't really answer it that well. I mean, I have an online business, has to do with tutoring, so I haven't tried to open anything over here. So I can't really be that helpful in that regards. But in terms of like safety and everything, it was good. Like again, this 2.5 years, even that went down the drain. Many people wanted to invest in Armenia, but ever since after that so-called Velvet Revolution, people got scared to invest in, especially now. To be honest with you, I don't think anyone's going to want to invest in Armenia right now unless we get back on our feet, unless we show them that we're worth investing in. That's what we have to do. Okay, guys,
so I put the link out in the description. I got a couple of people behind the scenes here. So game night, if you could at least open your camera so that we know that you're of age, that would be great. And then you can close it again. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Game Night. We'll bring you on here. So I'm going to bring on Game Night into the discussion here, to the panel here. And just to let you know, Game Night, if you could mute you'll be able to hear the show when you're in the studio with us. If you could mute your YouTube, whoever's joining the studio tonight, mute your YouTube channel, because you'll be able to hear us in the discussion. You'll be able to watch along with us. And don't worry, the show will be uploaded later. So we're going to bring on Game Night. We've read a few of his comments before, right, guys? So here he is in the studio. Game Night, hi, how are you? Can you hear us, Game Night? Let's unmute him. Game Night, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Certainly. Okay, so we have Patrick Lancaster here. We got Hayk on the panel as well. My name is Alex. Go ahead if you have some questions. We'd love to answer them, or comments.
The biggest one that I wanted to bring up is I wanted to know how being in the war felt, because I'm an American veteran. I didn't get the chance to fight, but I would love to know, just to show some of my friends that were in the war, kind of how it felt over there.
So you want me to describe how it was during the war?
Yes, please.
Like how I felt?
Yeah, well, whoever wants to answer it, put your hand up, and we'll go to you to answer it.
I guess I'll answer.
Go ahead,
quickly. Yeah. No problem. Again, I was dispatched to the Martakert region. It's a mountainous region, actually. The village of Hayk. It's actually one of the biggest villages in Artsakh, I believe. And there was a lot of artillery fire, but I never saw a Turk up close, because again, we were in a mountain. Our post was in a mountainous area, so they didn't even try to even come. They actually tried one time, and that was the first day of the war. I wasn't even there yet. I was there at the third day of the war. They tried one time, and they got gunned down. And when I went to that post, I saw their bodies laying next to the river. And they didn't, in our part, they didn't try to send in soldiers to the post that often. It was more just like mortars, cannon fire, and basically just those two. And there was a few tanks that they had as well. But that's a crazy thing. I was there the whole war, 45 days. I didn't see one Turk from up close. But most of the intense battles were happening down south. That's where people say they saw a lot of Turks up close. But even then, most people I talked to, about 70%, didn't even see any Turks up close. But again, this was more of drone warfare and artillery fire, stuff like that. There was not that many up close combats. There was, but for the majority was actually not that.
Thank you. I know it's hard sometimes to talk about some type of warfare, so thank you for at least sharing that.
Yeah. Sure, anytime.
We really appreciate you joining the panel tonight, and thank you for your questions. If you want to come in later, just hit that link again, and you'll go back into the queue line. I appreciate that, and thank you for coming on the program tonight. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Narek, if you could just quickly turn your camera on to make sure that you're old enough to enter the program tonight, that would be happy. I've also got Ash in, as well as Jason was there, but Jason left. Let's just see here. Can't unmute the guest. Okay, Jason's back. We're going to go with you, Jason, okay? And Jason, welcome to the panel. How are you, sir?
I'm holding up rather well, surprisingly.
You have a question for tonight's panel?
Yeah, it starts with a little bit of a preface. I am from the California independence movement. We've been pushing for independence for years now. We plan on using the Articles of Self-Determination, just like Artsakh. That's why we actually have come out in full support of Artsakh and the right to self-determination. And we have recently announced that we are going to open an Artsakh cultural embassy here in California. And we would like to know if folks in Armenia, Artsakh would, one, appreciate this, and two, would they reciprocate?
Hayk, that's all of you.
Hayk, that's over to you, sir.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't know about that. I mean, I'm sure any type of pro-Armenian actions like that, pro-Artsakh actions like that, anywhere in the diaspora or outside of Armenia will be, appreciated. But I mean, first and foremost, again, the government has to acknowledge that and appreciate that first before the people actually do as well. So I don't know. At this point, to be honest with you, I don't think the people here care about any of that, to be honest with you, my brother, because they're more concerned. They're more concerned with what's going on over here. They're not even thinking about if Artsakh is being recognized or anything like that outside of Armenia. They want to fix the problems over here first of all before they think about overseas.
And Hayk, just to add in, just while we have Jason on here as well, I mean, Hayk, is there a way that people can interact with you to talk to you about situations like this, to talk to you about, how they're feeling, what organizations, do you have certain social networks where somebody can interact with you and post some ideas like this? Like that might be good, Jason, you can bounce some ideas off and see where things can move forward, right? Because we've got to be open to all types of discussions here. Who knows what this world's going to be like in 72 hours, let alone 6 months. So
I'm on Facebook. Patrick posted my link on the description.
Oh, did he?
For the
okay.
video. Yeah.
So Jason, what you can do is Hayk is on Facebook there. And you can just kind of coordinate a conversation. We do appreciate you coming on. If you have another question coming up after Jason, just re-click the link back in and we'll continue to move on. But we really appreciate it. And thank you a lot for asking your questions today. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to go on to Ash. Can you fire your camera up for a second? Chris, I've got you in the back end of the studio, and Narek, I got you in the back end of the studio. Gentlemen, you okay with answering these questions? You happy with it?
It's been easy for me so far.
That's what we're here. Okay. Ash, are you there? Could you click your camera on? Just got to make sure that you're old enough. If not, I will then go to Chris. Chris, can you give me the thumbs up if you're ready to ask questions? Okay, I'm bringing in Chris, gentlemen. Chris, how are you? It looks very nice where you are.
Oh, I'm good. Thank you. I'm on a fishing trip.
Well, thank you for making us part of your fishing trip. What's your question for the panel tonight?
So my question, I'm from California. I was born in the USA, and I heard, I don't know if this is true, maybe you guys will know, George Soros' involvement in getting Pashinyan in Armenia. Is there any truth to that? Do you guys know?
I can't really...
I could say that. I mean, it's obviously true. I mean, the proof is there. If you look at the Open Society foundations, they all got funded. All of Pashinyan's team, everybody, has been funded by George Soros and other, Zionist globalists. So that's not something new. That's not even a secret. A lot of them haven't even hit it. You could find it online, find the sources of all everything I'm saying, and
So
it's not something new. Again, this has been going on for 30 years. For the past 30 years, these Zionist, the Soros-funded media outlets have been doing nothing but brainwashing the people, turning them against each other, and dumbing them down. That's why there's so much confusion and conflict right now. The seeds of the chaos that we see now, the seeds were sown long ago. We're just reaping them right now. Same thing with America. The crazy things that's going on in America right now, those seeds were sown long ago. So
Hayk,
there's definitely internal enemies.
So Hayk, could you at a later time, maybe on the next show, bring some of that links and stuff with you on the next show so we can share them to them? So Chris, what Hayk will do is next time we do a live stream, we'll get prepared for that question. And we'll share some information with you. And good luck, sir, catching some fish. We appreciate you being part of the program. And if you've got any questions in the future, just click the link, come back into the studio. We appreciate that. We're going to go on to Ash. Ash, I'm bringing you on here. Can you hear us? Are you with us, Ash? We see you, but we don't hear you. Okay, I will come back to Ash in a moment. Narek, if you could show your camera, that would be helpful so that we know that you're of age to enter this program. I've got Narek in the back end of the studio. And just waiting, gentlemen.
Yes.
Well, we'll bring Game Night back on. He's got another question. Here we go. Go ahead, sir.
Patrick, this is more towards you. I've enjoyed your work for a long time. I've watched you for 2.5 years, I believe now. And yeah, thank you. I just wanted to ask, how has this felt different than other spots, or is it similar?
Well, comparing this war to the Ukraine war, a huge difference. I mean, I've been covering the Ukraine war for 6 years, and throughout the whole war, I've been in a lot of hot spots, like I said, but I've never quite felt the fear, even when I was in intense battle in the Ukraine war. It never felt the fear as I did in Artsakh, just because of the drones, the air superiority, never knowing what direction the threat was going to come to. Because for 6 years, I've always been in a position where I know, okay, in that direction is the threat. If shells come in, they're coming from that direction. So if I position my body here next to this wall or this, there's a less chance that I'm going to get hit myself. When walking from area to area that was under attack in Artsakh, and knowing these huge drones are over my head with rockets that could come down and kamikaze me at any time, or shoot rockets, and they're looking with cameras for people. That's the biggest thing. I mean, it just didn't even compare. Just really intense.
I remember having you on the phone, and we were going to go to a live stream, and then Patrick said, Alex, I don't think so. If I stand 5 feet out front of this thing with a mobile phone, I might not be on the call. Does that help answer your question there, Game Night?
Yes, thank you a lot.
All right, terrific. If you'd like to ask more questions, just come back into the studio at a later time. I'm going to go over to Ash. Ash, welcome to the program, sir. I think his camera, maybe it might be the connection. Ash, are you there? Can you hear us? Yeah, we're trying to get his connection working. It's not really working, or it's kind of working.
Oh, there it is.
You just have to unmute your microphone if you can. Maybe he has a question. All right. Well, anyway, we'll figure that out later. Narek, I still got Narek in the backstage, but anyway, I will try to have to. Anybody else would like to take part? I will then put the link back up in the program. I mean, Hayk, did you see these drones flying over your head?
Yeah, but they had more of a reconnaissance mission. You know, they weren't really attacking us. There were these drones that got close called the kamikazes, basically, you know, suicide drones. And we heard their noise, but it didn't really hit our post per se. It did hit other posts, I believe. But that was one of the reasons why a lot of soldiers, they didn't want to sleep in every post had a little hut, as you could say. You know, they call it blindage, where they go and sleep, where they, you know, warm up and everything. And they didn't want to sleep there because it's risky. First, for one, a cannon might hit the area, or two, a suicide drone might come and strike it. So whenever people did sleep there, it was always with shoes on, and someone always had to be awake just so they could wake the person up if something like that did happen. That's why we were building the shells in the trenches, so we could sleep in the shells, because that's the safest place to be. And that's why we were building it in a way where we could stay warm during the winter. And right when we finished the shell, the war ended. That's the crazy thing. We finished. I mean, it took us about a month, I believe, to finish the shell. And right when we finished it, we heard that the war was over, and it was crazy.
So Ash, I don't know if your connection, it must be your connection, you're a bit pixelated, but maybe you could type your question out. That would be helpful.
I can barely hear you guys.
Okay, maybe just type your question out there. Ash, I appreciate it. I know you got a lot of questions. The connection is not very good on your end, but we'll try our best here. I can hear you now. Yes, go ahead. If you got a question for us.
Yeah, bad connection.
Okay, no problem, Ash. We'll try to get you in here in a little bit here. No problem.
I'll
just let you guys...
Doug's question if you want.
Fire away. Go ahead, Hayk.
Yeah, I mean, Armenians are accepting of all nationalities. I mean, to be honest, we're one of the most hospitable people. So, yeah, if he ever wants to visit, he wouldn't have any problem. That's for sure.
And I can actually delve on that even a little bit more. I was actually very surprised when I went from Russia to Armenia. You know, this was my first time when the war started. How many Armenians actually speak English? Because I've been, you know, living in Donetsk and Russia for the last 6 years, where they basically only speak Russian. And then I went there, and they speak. Many of them speak Russian and English, and of course Armenia. Me being speaking English, of course, and also having a good control of the Russian language. It was almost, I wasn't sure, should I speak Russian now or should I speak English? It was kind of.
I guess I misunderstood the question. I was talking about if people would understand them. I mean, yeah, this new generation, they know English better than Russian. Because they're putting more influence on the English now instead of the Russian language. So if he was talking about that, then yeah, he will meet a lot of people, especially in Yerevan, especially like in the center. Almost everyone knows English, so he wouldn't have a problem.
Gentlemen, next person up is Hakim. I think that I'm pronouncing that right. Hakim, you have a question for the panel tonight? Hakim, you're live on the show.
Looks like he typed his question.
He did. Tell me, where is it? Do you see it, Patrick?
Yeah, I can. Why Armenia still does not present captured Syrian messengers yet to the international organization Armenia? BBC, CNN, France 24 journalists are simply rejected.
So the question is, again, why is Armenia still does not present captured Syrian messengers yet to the international organizations or media? BBC, CNN, France 24 journalists are simply rejected. To the panel.
As I understand, he's asking why.
About the Syrian mercenaries that were captured from us during the war?
That's what I think he's referring to.
Oh, okay.
Good question.
Okay.
Your thoughts on that? I don't know. For me as a journalist, I would think that they would show them right away, but maybe you have better insights.
I mean, it would have been good if we could trade their Syrian mercenaries for our soldiers, but the Azeri government doesn't even give a damn about the mercenaries, so that's why they're not doing that. To them, they have no value. They were just,
Well, I think he's more going. I think he's more asking why isn't Armenia showing these terrorists or mercenaries, doing interviews and whatnot.
Yeah, that's a good question too. I don't know. Maybe it was part of the deal. I guess Tashina maybe doesn't want to show it. Maybe he has some kind of a secret deal with Aliyev. Possibly. I'm not sure actually.
Well, good comment, and good. Maybe some of our viewers can also help us out with that, and we appreciate that. Hakim, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, but thank you for coming on to the panel. If you have a question later, just click that link again, guys, as well as people can share the link. Ash, I'm going to try you one more time, Ash, and if we can get you on here, great. If not, please ask your question in the comment box here. On the side here, you'll see it in the private chat, and then we'll have game night after that. Gentlemen, I just want to say the people that are watching tonight that Patrick Lancaster is an independent, completely independent and crowdfunded journalist. He does appreciate all the donations that you give him through his Patreon. He also takes contributions through fundraiser, PayPal. Buy him a coffee or Sberbank in Russia. And if you can't do any of that, by the grace of God, please share to get the word out. Our guest as well is Hayk, that is on the program tonight. He has enlightened us to a lot of things that have been going on. You can find him on his Facebook, and me, if you enjoy watching a lot of stuff that goes on in Asia, some stuff that you will not see on the mainstream media. That is for certain. My channel is Reporterfy Media. There's a link in the description box below, and you can definitely catch me there. Okay, so we got a lot more questions coming in. Ash, are you there? Okay, I'm sorry, Ash. Something wrong with your connections. Not us. We love you, though. But we're going to go on to Patrick. Yes, go ahead, Patrick.
I've actually got a question from a different source through Facebook. This is actually a person that lives in Baku, actually. It's one of the only people from Azerbaijan that I've been able to have a civil conversation with over throughout the war. He asked me specifically to ask you about the tactics between Azerbaijan, or compared from the Azerbaijan army and Armenian army. If you could kind of compare the different tactics, and as far as the second part, as far as the drones, how did that affect the morale of the soldiers in your area?
Again, the tactics is hard for me to comment on because, again, I was just a common soldier. I wasn't like a captain or some type of commander during the war. So it's hard for me to elaborate on that in full detail. I believe the only tactic is just keep pushing forward. I mean, they didn't, as far as I know, they didn't do anything special. The Azeris didn't do anything special. And our job was just to guard the post. It was just that. And the drones, like I said, in my area, it only had a reconnaissance purpose. We didn't have that many suicide drones hitting our area that often. It was way too high up in the air. It was about 5 kilometers up in the air where we were. So it was just taking pictures mostly. And a lot of people tried to shoot them down with the AKs, but they were way too high up for it to even strike. Yeah, but again, unfortunately, I wasn't a commander, so I don't know exactly what tactics were being used for me to comment on. It's hard for me to say.
Game night, go ahead. You're on the air.
My question was for Patrick about the United States. How do you feel about some of the things that are going on that you don't hear about? Like, I live in the state of Oregon, and there's been protests in Portland for 4 months straight. And riots, and the capital, Salem, actually just got hit by a couple riots and protests also.
Well, I haven't been back to the United States in almost 10 years now, but I still try to, keep my head in it. And I haven't been a very political person, except for how I view the change of party is going to affect the areas that I live, in particular Donetsk, and now that I'm spending a lot of time in Armenia. But in Oregon, like I said, I haven't seen much on that, but what happened in the capital, I think, was just horrible. And I had basically supported or favored, I should say, not supported, but favored Trump until that happened, until he failed to make a clear-cut statement telling his supporters to stand down, because I think he really crossed the line. I'm not fully into his, the politics in the States and everything, but that was really kind of a turning point for me, because I favored him over Biden just because I think it was the less of, the more.
The lesser of two evils.
Yeah, and the possibility to help the country more. But because, I don't think really many people think that Biden is going to make it 4 years. I think Kamala Harris is going to be the first woman president after not so long. But we'll just have to see. Only God knows.
Game night. Can you ask your question again? Because I think I want to weigh in on this. What was the question again?
More or less just feeling about how the protests are, because it's not just in Oregon, it's all across the country in every major city in every state. And it's not just about the presidency and the change, it's just about the instability of every state. We don't know what the federal government's plans are just because of tax cuts for the rich and all these other things that keep happening over and over again. That's just turning America into what it is now.
Can you allow me a couple minutes to weigh in on that? I'd like to give you my opinion on it, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Okay, so, as a Canadian, I've been living abroad now for almost 25 years. I've traveled to about 107 countries. I watched countries' infrastructures be built and be torn apart over the years. And here's my outlook on America. You had a person in there that actually had a really good idea, and that is to make your country amazing. And let's pull out the political side of this for a minute, and let's imagine that dream could become reality. It gave Americans hope, because it's tough times. It's been tough times since the housing crisis in 2008. I don't think America has ever recovered from that. But it gave Americans the hope. Now, here's what you're up against. You're up against other economies that moved forward and actually took your dream or took your vision of America and capitalized on it. And I know why I say this. I keep going back to China because you can see my webpage or my YouTube channel, Reporterfy Media. I'm actually bigger on Chinese social media. And I get called all nasty names because I try to show what is going on here in Asia. You're not seeing it. You're hearing that, they've stole our jobs. They stole our technology. They stole our money. The Chinese have basically taken our money and built their country. True. Yeah, true.
Yeah, you're not wrong. The amount of infrastructure projects that China has across the world now has made them a global superpower.
The Silk Road is going to change the world forever. Okay, I'm serious about that. And it's not me being out here saying, it's China's turn, but it is their turn. And we have to accept in our Western countries that we're going to have a different standard of living. Now we'll say, well, where are you going with this, Alex? What do you mean I'm going to have a different standard of living? Why is that? Because you have $28 trillion in debt. That is why you're going to have a different standard of living. Now, it's not just the debt. We have the potential here to work with this global superpower. Now, it's all, and I hope you understand me on this game night. It's what I read from my Western media is Western good, China bad. China bad. It's all bad, okay?
That's how it keeps getting spun, and that's just not the truth, because...
Guys, can I tell you how, and then we'll get back on the subject, but I think this is really interesting, guys, because this is really important. Can I tell you how Asia dealt with the pandemic here? I'm currently right now, I'm in Thailand. Do you want to know what happened? Here's a remarkable figure for you guys. Trust me on this. Thailand has the number one tourists are Chinese. 58% of our market is Chinese. We were the last to close our borders to China. Remember these points, guys. We were the last country to close the borders with China. Okay? We had the first COVID positive test outside of China. It happened in Thailand. Okay? We were rated up until a couple weeks ago number one for COVID prevention in the world. How did we do it? Well, let me show you something on my mobile, guys. And this is to the extreme that it got. There's an app on our mobile. It's a contact tracing app. Okay? And I'll tell you how great this is. Now, for all those people that say it's going to take away my rights, it's going to take away my freedom, I get you on that, and I understand where you're going with that, and all those things. But the application, the contact tracing app, it's similar to this. Okay, I'm just going to kind of show you guys kind of like what it looks like. Okay, you see that? I don't know if you can see it's green here. It's a little bit green. I don't know if you can see the color green. Okay, that means, and it's saying it's very low risk on my phone. This will tell me in real time who has a positive COVID test right down to my building. If it goes amber, I'm not allowed in certain stores. If it goes red, I have to go to the doctor's office in order for this phone to be back to green. Now, I can't get into certain things, just like China here. I can't get into hospitals, banks, 7-Elevens, shopping malls, movie theaters, local rapid transit, taxi drivers, or anything if this is yellow or red. And that means you got to consult a doctor online. So I consult a doctor online, chat with him. He takes me through the test. He knows my coordinates. He resets my phone for me. And that's accountability. And that's how you combat it here. People took it serious. And why we got such a mess in this Western world right now is it really shows us how we can deal with a world pandemic. And my question for maybe you game night is, should the U.S. military be called out to help combat this problem that's going on in the United States right now with this epidemic? Do you think the military needs to get that country out of control with its pandemic of 300,000 people infected a day and 4,000 dying a day, something like that?
Well, as a veteran of the United States Army,
thank you for that. Thank you.
There's just no possible way that the American people are too proud, too ignorant, too unbelieved in the fact that this is affecting us. Yeah, we have all these restrictions in place, but nobody follows them. The police think it's a joke. And the United States isn't keeping up with other countries. We're still behind. We still think a vaccine will be the cure-all. It's the panacea that lied. It's just not possible. And even if the American government, the federal government, if they could, for lack of a better term, pull their heads out of their asses, then they couldn't pull together the military to do anything. And even if the military did do something, what are they going to do? They're not trained in this. They're not, I certainly was never trained in this fact of riot control or chemical warfare. We have people for that. We have people for specific jobs like that. The entire military wouldn't be able to.
But to help me out with this, couldn't you guys set up a military hospital to house, I don't know, 40,000 sick people in 48 hours? Couldn't you mass vaccinate the elderly? Couldn't you guys do that?
I think there's a big difference that a lot of people don't know about the United States. There's the federal and the state armies. The federal army is active, and the states are National Guard and reserve to a lesser degree. When the federal active army wants to move into a state, they need the state's allowance for it. And that's the hard part about the military doing anything. In other countries, they're with the people. There's such a separation between the United States federal army and National Guard. The National Guard can only do so much with funding. And that's the issue, is that there's so much money just gone that isn't talked about. That's just stolen from the American citizens. And nobody's talking about it. This pandemic has shown even worse that the government's out for themselves. As soon as the economy was going down in the United States, the governors didn't care. They didn't act until months later. And even then, that was to the help of the economy, not the people. The United States, as I said before, this is the turning point. And when America falls, it's just like the Roman Empire. A lot of other people are going to fall with us.
And I think you might have been listening then early on in the program when I did make a point about this. That my concern is someone's going to have to pay this almighty $4 trillion printing party that we've been on. Guys, this world has been on a pretty amazing party. I mean, you would think, right, with these economies closed down, first of all, the environment would have improved. So that argument for the environment should have improved with about 90% of the planes out of the sky now. But do I call you Game Night or can I call you something else?
You can call me John.
Okay, John. So my fear here, John, is if all hell is going to break loose in the United States, what's going to be the igniter? What country is it going to be to start it? I know it's not going to start in the U.S.
No, it certainly will start in the U.S. We've already started to see acts of barbarism that wasn't thought about, that the American people thought we could do. We took over a Capitol building. The American people marched into a building that we thought we would have been shot and killed before we even reached. And that has shown, at least to me, that America is too lax on what they once believed. And the turning point, no other country, I love Canada, I love Mexico as allies to the United States, but they're not going to spark this. The United States has already lost so much money draining into the Middle East, draining into Africa, draining into Europe. And this debt that we have, we like to forget that it exists. But we couldn't help Ukraine. We couldn't help Syria. We couldn't help these other countries as much as we should have been. And America, when it falls, there goes the credit. There goes the credit lines to half of Europe. There goes the credit lines to half of the Middle East. There goes our arms trade. There goes so much of what America has done that we don't talk about.
And
I'd like to add that.
Please do add. Please do.
I just for this whole coronavirus thing, I just think it's blown out of proportion by the media. I believe there's a bigger threat facing America and the world than this virus, which is very similar to the flu. I don't really want to get into all that right now, but I just feel like, America's been hijacked a long time ago, ever since the media got hijacked in America by special interest groups, everything. The whole country's been hijacked. And that's why democracy is so promoted overseas and everywhere else. Because in a democracy, the media and the banks control that country, not the government. So that's why I believe it's really blown out of proportion, and there's seriously bigger threats facing just our civilization in general. And we need to focus on those instead of this virus that's spreading. And I don't believe in those technocratic methods that you showed, Alex, about how, we have to scan this or scan that. I just feel like all those things really just give me the creeps, to be honest with you.
And Hayk, I want to add in, and I completely agree with you. I have a mother that will defend with you to the grave on this. But I can tell you something. I can walk out my door with confidence. I can do everything that my country cannot do right now. If my mom was here, I could give her a hug. I could walk over to her house. I could cook her dinner. I could have, we're open. We are open here, and please hold that thought.
Yeah, sure.
The second largest economy in the globe has been open since last April, and they're making up a lot of time. And I agree with you. I understand where you're going with this. You're saying, yeah, this is blowing out of proportion. It's a small amount of people are dying. I get that, but it's real here. At least we believe it here. It was believed here. I have family that have been sick with it. So, it's some people, no problem. Some people, shit. I mean, there's a few thousand people feeling pretty shitty every day right now.
Go ahead. Okay, but how about this? Let's say it is an actual serious threat, as the media says it is. How come they don't try to, like in China, right? You're saying they're taking it very seriously. Then why not try to close those wet markets where the virus spreads from? Why not try to, get rid of those so another virus like that doesn't spread again? If they're really concerned about the welfare of the people, they need to, eliminate the cause, which caused the virus to spread.
And the wet markets were closed. Xi Jinping closed the wet markets in 30 days across the entire country.
I mean, it's not just even wet markets. I mean, with the swine flu, everything, it all spreads from factory farming of animals. That's
sure, but we can go back to the H1N1. We can go all the way back in history of time if we want.
But I mean, my point is that they don't really care about the welfare of people. This is done for a certain agenda, problem, reaction, solution. They create a problem. They want to vaccinate people, so they create that problem, offer that solution to people. You need to get vaccinated or else they're going to get the coronavirus. I mean, look, I was at the trenches. No masks, no nothing, bad conditions, barely shower. I didn't even shower, to be honest with you, those 45 days. And no, anything at all. No, very few sanitizers. My point is that we didn't contract the virus or anything. People seem to have forgot about the virus when the war broke out. You know what I mean? It's just we need to focus on staying healthy if we want to prevent diseases in general, not just coronavirus.
You might have even have it, and you might not even known it.
Maybe. That's why I don't want to get a test. I mean, so that they'll put me in a blacklist.
Go ahead, Patrick. You got to leave the program, Patrick. We'll keep your channel going. Don't worry.
The family and kids are going to be coming home pretty soon, so it's going to be kind of hectic, so I'm gonna have to
head out. We'll keep it going and we'll close it down for you. I'm gonna keep Hayk on the show for a bit and game night here for another 20-30 minutes, and we'll see where we can go from here. Okay. Take it easy.
Have a good one, Patrick.
Yeah. Sorry I have to get out early, but
no problem, Patrick. We'll shut the lights out for you. Get out of here.
All right.
So thank you. So
I just want to add one thing before I go.
Please do.
It's for the Russian-speaking people. I'm going to be re-uploading this whole thing, cleaned up a bit, but with full Russian subtitles. So
that's
quite
the journey.
It'll probably take me about a day or two to get it up, but I'm gonna do it my best. So
well, thank you, Patrick. I'll kick you out of the studio here. It's been a pleasure, and I appreciate you having me on here. And don't worry, I'll take care of your audience. See you in a bit. All right, take care.
Take care.
So I got Hayk here, and we've got game night. We'll call John on the program. This is interesting. Don't get me wrong here, Hayk. I completely agree with you that the last thing I want is somebody to stick something in my arm. Hasn't happened. Am I praying for it to go out and get a vaccine? No. Because I'm pretty confident in the environment that I'm here in Asia. And that's not to say that, we stumbled, but, I've got to agree with John here a little bit. We have seriously dropped the ball here with this global pandemic. It shows the weaknesses in certain countries. Now, maybe it didn't hit Armenia that hard because you're busy there fighting. I agree with you.
Actually,
That you
it did actually.
Okay, so it hit hard there,
capita.
But per capita, and thank you for clarifying that. But the whole issue here is that this shows us that when we're hit with a major challenge like this, I didn't even know until John came on the program that the military is operated that way in the United States. I was completely clueless on that. You know, and thank you, John, for that. I'm just gonna we got another question here from Hakim. How come every day MOD representatives of Armenia kept saying that Armenia is winning the war constantly for 43 days, but the next day Pashinyan signed act of capitulation?
Yeah, I mean that's one of the big reasons why we lost too. You know, like I said, the air defense system wasn't working properly. They didn't draft the soldiers that needed to be drafted. You know why? Because they thought everything was going well. The media kept telling them that we're winning, and that's why they didn't even try to volunteer. And a lot of these pro-Pashinyan people are criticizing the anti-Pashinyan protesters for going against Pashinyan right now, but they didn't serve in the war. I mean, look, not everyone is patriotic to volunteer for a war when it breaks out. That's just the way it is, you know. But it's up to the army, it's up to the state to recruit those people, to call them in, and they didn't. There was no mass draft. Instead, Pashinyan was on television or on radio. I don't know where he was actually, because I was just hearing the radio. He said that he was telling people to form militias and go to the front. I mean, he's acting like it's the 90s. This is it's the 21st century. It was up to the army to organize all that, and it seems like it was deliberate. They didn't send the people to the front, and they kept spreading that false propaganda that we're winning this war, where in fact it was just we went in to lose this war. We fought this war to lose it because it was all a setup. It was all pre-planned, and it's not a coincidence that this war finished on Azerbaijan's Flag Day, I believe it was, on the 9th.
Yeah,
and it felt like it was just one big setup. And one of the reasons for that propaganda was to keep people in that illusion that everything is fine. And so people in the city, in the capital, they're just sitting home thinking, oh, you know what? I'm not going to volunteer, but if they do call me for duty, I will go. They didn't get that call. So are we to blame that person, or are we to blame the state that didn't call them? Can you imagine what would have happened if Stalin just relied on volunteers? You know, obviously he wouldn't have won. So, I mean, that's the whole point of an army, is for them to be able to organize all that.
John, do you mind if I keep you on the show for a bit?
Of course, I don't mind at all.
Okay. Hayk, thank you for that. There's a question that just came up here from Jareth, that we need to reinstate the draft. That would help change people's minds on our foreign policy quick. What are your thoughts on that, John?
If the draft happens, that's definitely going to be the second civil war in the United States.
Okay.
The belief of the American citizen is, no, we will not send our boys to die in a foreign war. That has been the term since pretty much World War II. And we keep getting pushed to go fight since Korea, Vietnam, all the Afghanistan, Iraq. We keep getting sent into these foreign wars that the American citizens never wanted to be a part of. We keep getting told that these are enemies. These are the people that we need to fight. And I agree with you, Hayk, on the fact that, sorry if I mispronounced it, but the governments
did a pretty good job.
The governments have been failing us, because armies are supposed to fight for the people's interest. The armies are supposed to protect the people, the state, the country. And the armies have been continuously being misled and misused and misrepresented. And when it's up to politicians to fight wars, the generals are at the loss, because politicians are now fighting wars. Whoever has the most money in their pockets decide the war. And that's been proven with PMC groups in the United States. That's one of the largest money schemes now in the United States, is private military contractors,
Thank
mercenaries.
you.
They have been sent to Brazil, Peru, Colombia, Iraq, Syria. They are fighting where the U.S. Army won't go. And of course, they cost more, but they're going to do things that the U.S. Army would never do. And there's starting to become a trend where PMCs in the United States specifically are going to be fighting the next wars, not the U.S. Army.
Interesting.
I mean,
can I ask you a question? When do you think this is going to be interesting here, and I want you to respect me here because my father was in the military, in the Navy, and my grandfather was in the Second World War as well. And this may sound like an odd question, but when was the last credible war that the United States fought?
I think World War II. Honestly, if I'm being perfectly honest, World War II is the last credible war. I mean, you could make arguments with a lot that the United States used. That some of them can be convincing to be real wars, but when we fought it was democracy versus the Nazis. That there's no other way that could have been shown during World War II. But as soon as it's the oil fields in Iraq helping our buddies Kuwait and Israel, like there's no more times that wars get decided anymore. That's not a politician.
So with you, John, I can't agree with that whole World War II statement, to be honest with you, because that was a bigger threat. I mean, people, sided with Stalin to obvious mass murder, and it was done deliberately by the global media. They turned everything around, and they made people believe that Germany was a big threat that was going to conquer the world. But in reality, that wasn't the truth back then. But that's a different story. And I believe right now the wars that America is fighting, almost all of them are not even for its interest. It's for foreign interest. APAC, I mean, the American-Israeli Public Affairs Committee is the largest lobby in American government. So if that's the case, how is it going to be able to fight its own interests?
Hayk, I want to type in on this one here a little bit. We could sit around here and we could throw fingers at this country did this and that year, and that country did that and that year. But let me throw a couple of analogies out to you guys here. And this should be quite a shocker.
Here, before you do that, can I say something real quick?
Yep, go ahead, John.
Hayk, I apologize. I wasn't meaning for the Eastern Bloc countries around Stalinism. That was a whole nother slice of cake. I was more meaning just the United States with the Nazis, because there were many other issues with Japan, the Imperial Japan with China, and how that's being ignored, and Russia basically just stealing people's cultures and countries. And I apologize for that.
No, you don't need to apologize. I'm just saying that I don't think Germany was as big of a threat back then as the media portrayed. Same thing that happened now. I mean, the media twisting everything now. The same thing was happening back then. It's no surprise. And that's the reason why all these wars are happening in the first place, because of misinformation. Whoever controls that flow of information controls the foreign policy, controls what's going on in that part of the world.
Very good point. Hayk, that is a very good point. And I want to add to that. I went into the library in 1996 and I asked for a book on East Germany. In the Canadian curriculum, there was no books in the library for me to read past West Germany. Didn't exist. So I called up my sister who works in the school board a few years ago, and I said, is there any way that you can go in the old Dewey Decimal System there and find out when books on the Second World War and, the communist bloc started to enter our libraries in Canada? And she said, yeah, in the summer of 1997. I said, isn't that interesting? 1 year after the internet finally connected a lot of nations together, that I could actually read another part of history that I wasn't really able to read at that time. And I started to educate myself. And I'm married to a woman from Eastern Europe who was born under Soviet times. And I just remember going into that country. They weren't part of the European Union yet. And I was told by so many people that, and we're talking about Lithuania now. It's one of the Baltic countries. And I was like, oh, don't you dare go there, Alex. Tanks in the streets, it's not what you think. And I arrived in a wonderful country and I said, wow, what else have I been lied to about? And this comes around to, if this audience wants to know how I understand and know Patrick, is that I decided to get to the bottom of this Yugoslavian war. And I decided to travel to every country in Yugoslavia a few years after things cooled down. And I just remember my father coming into the house one night with a brand new television. And John, maybe you can relate to this. When there's a war about to outbreak, TV sales go through the roof. Okay, they do. And my dad said to me, there's going to be a war. And I said, why would there be a war, Dad? What are you talking about? He says, no, Yugoslavia. Oh, hell's going to break loose. The Clinton impeachment's about to happen. Get ready, heads are going to roll. Sure enough, 78 days aerial bombardment. They busted up that country into pieces. And I'm not here to agree to disagree, to agree to who took what, how it got taken, whatever. But that country has never been the same since those 78 days, ever. Okay. And I remember flying into Belgrade. And I got to tell you something. Your physique, Hayk, I would never want to be into a bar fight with a guy like you because I'd get my ass kicked. All right, let's just agree that I'm a good talker, but I couldn't fight my way out.
You haven't seen my home gym, huh? You haven't seen the home gym?
I don't. We'll save that for another time. But anyway, I headed into Serbia one night, and I flew in there, and I was shocked that there was only 4 flights into a city of 2 million people that whole day. And I was shocked. So I was walking around the town and I noticed bridges were bombed out. We never went in to rebuild this country. Okay. Bridges bombed out, infrastructure's bombed out, everything was bombed out in this place. Okay. And I'm not here to go on about war and everything that's happened, but I can tell you something. It's the first time that I went to a country that I felt uncomfortable. Serbia is beautiful. Belgrade is actually a very beautiful city. So I decided to go out at night, and I was with an Irish friend, and I went up to a bar. And as you know, guys in Eastern Europe and in these, countries, bar service, it's kind of unique to get a bottle and sit at a table because it's not going to break the bank. You buy a bottle of vodka in that area of the world, it's about $40. So I said, I would like bottle service. I'd like to sit, get me bottle service. I'm in a nice club here. It'd be great. And the girl says, I don't think you're coming into the club. And I said, well, why not? And she said, well, you're an American. I said, no. I'm a Canadian. Ready for it? That's even worse. I said, excuse me? Why? She said, I'll make you a deal. You walk 3 blocks down. You see that light up in the street about 300 meters away? It's lit up in the street corner. And I said, yeah. She says, you go down 3 blocks and you look at that bright light. And if you're okay with that, you come back and I'll let you in the club, no problem. So I thought it was kind of a joke or a trick or whatever. So, I walked 3 blocks down and I turned to my left and I saw the biggest Canadian flag I've ever seen with a black question mark. Why Canada? Hanging from a bombed out building. And I paused and said, shit. I'm going to go back to the hotel. And I went back to the hotel and I sat at the bar and, these big Serbian guys, they're just like you, okay? Hayk, they're just like you. This guy looks at me and he says, "Hey, man, you look like you've seen a ghost." And I said, "Yeah, I saw my Canadian flag hanging from a building with a big question mark." And he says, "Oh, that's one of our military installations. Your fighter jets, as part of NATO, were one of the major parts that were bombing our country." And it was the first time in history I've ever felt as a Canadian, deeply upset and unwelcomed. But yet the guy looked at me and says, "Isn't it great that we're just in the middle of our next war, but you and I can sit here and have a drink?" And I just remember how fast those jets were, because I was on one of the guys that were on the buildings trying to shoot them down. And, John, these things, I can't even fathom what you guys that have served or have even fought in wars go through. I have no idea. And I think it's important that we tell people, that are on this program that might say, "Hey, you're not thinking about the other side. You're not thinking about the other side. You're only thinking one way." Well, what do people expect, Hayk, for a guy like you? Do they expect you to get up there and say, "Hey, man, after your country's been under fire and attacks"? I mean, let's get to this. How psychological of a number has it done on you, your friends, your family, your loved ones? And John, maybe you can help us out here with some of the questions here for Hayk as we get to the bottom of this. I mean, how deep is this?
I felt like my family suffered more than I did, because they were way too worried about me. And the good thing about it, I guess I should say, that the war only lasted for 7 weeks. So I'm pretty sure I haven't seen as much as John has seen. I'm sure he's seen much more horrible things. And but overall, yeah, I mean, you can't go there with doubts. You have to know why you're there. I couldn't go there thinking, "Oh, you know what? Azerbaijan isn't that bad. Maybe they're nice fellows." Of course I know that they're the enemy. Or else how are you going to go with the right mindset? You're going there to protect the land. You're going there to do what you have to do. You're going there to do your duty. And you're going to do whatever you have to do. So, yeah, I don't understand these people who say biased or unbiased. I'm being objective. Like I said, that's historical Armenian land, and they're trying to take it away. So it's just that simple for me. I don't need to even get into all the details.
Yeah.
But go ahead, John.
Before I touch on that, I know I typed it in the chat earlier, but you can't ask a soldier how it feels. It's hard, because when you've actually fought, I got the chance not to, or I didn't get the chance to fight because I got injured stateside before I got deployed. But I have friends that went instead of me, and they came back and they said, "Thank God you didn't get sent there." And they were going to Iraq, they went to Afghanistan, and I just remember they came back, and I almost didn't even think that they were the same person anymore, because war changes someone. You're not the same when you come back. You're not the same when you go to another country, when you defend your homeland. And the hardest part is trying to convey that to someone. And I'm having difficulty right now, even though I didn't even go into fighting. But with all the training and all the, I mean, even here in Oregon, pretty small state in the United States, there's Blackhawks flying once a week for training purposes, going around the country. It's hard for some people to understand, but there's jets that fly around. There's helicopters, there's cargo planes, there's troop trainings. There's all this stuff that happens in the United States. And I mean, we see it as normal. But when I start talking to people to other countries, they're like, "Well, we fought because of war. And the American people are fighting because we don't have another job. Sometimes we don't have another opportunity." And what a lot of people don't know is that the United States offers some great incentives for fighting in the army. It's of quote unquote volunteer based, but most soldiers come from very low income neighborhoods where that's where recruiting is targeted. And sorry if I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here.
No, it's fine. No, please do. I mean, I have a good friend in the Philippines named Tim K. I don't know if you're aware of him. He's a YouTuber as well. But I remember in the Philippines, he's quite a popular YouTuber. He's on disability, but I remember calling him one night and said, "Tim, I found a couple of veterans. They're older guys. You should meet them." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Come meet these guys." And he says, "Where are they?" And I said, 10 kilometers from the house. Give me the address. And when he arrived and these two older vets were sitting at the table, I knew that it was my time to leave, because there was a bond there from males that I've never seen. In 50 years on this earth, I knew that there's some stuff there that I could, as you say, John, I could probably never understand. And, when I saw that, I just said, "Okay, Tim, and to him, he says, you guys don't realize how long I've been looking to meet some guys like you that understand." And Hayk, maybe, these guys didn't even have to say any words. You could just see by the feelings and the expressions in their faces that, this is pretty tough shit. This is pretty tough stuff.
I mean, people become, the friendships that they form, the best friendships are the ones that they form in childhood, and I believe through war. I mean, those bonds last for a long time. And again, those guys have probably, I'm sure they have seen a lot worse things than I have seen. Because again, I've only been there for less than 7 weeks. But even right now, those people I served with, I still stay in touch with them, and it's weird. It feels like I've known them for several years. I feel like it's like a different kind of bond. It just glues people together, being in tough situations. And a true friendship, that's what it's about, is being together in the worst type of scenarios, not the best scenarios. That's how you know if someone's a true friend or not.
And one thing to say, you should never feel bad when two soldiers know that they have that bond, because most of the time they're trying to convey something. Like right now, I'm just trying to show something that most people don't talk about or don't know about the United States, and it's hard to understand and hard to show. But most of the time, like me, I don't want that to be conveyed. I just want people to know.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, John. I mean, the other thing that the question I have for you, Hayk, is there any repercussions of you taking part of this?
What do you mean exactly?
Well,
I mean, certain governments don't like
the United States government?
Some of their citizens getting involved.
I never even thought about that.
Sorry to bring it up.
No, it's fine. I never even thought about that. I mean, I'm actually a dual citizen now. I'm an Armenian citizen as well. Yeah, I got my dual citizenship in 2017, basically a year after I moved. So I don't think there should be any problems. I could go back to the States right now with my head held up high, and no one could say anything, I believe. So I'm not a criminal. I'm not anything. I'm not one of those jihadi terrorist mercenaries that Azerbaijan was hiring. You know what I mean? I'm just but
you know what? People could call you that, right?
Yeah, I could see. I actually read that comments. They thought I was some mercenary. I thought I was some terrorist. They didn't know I'm just a college professor. That's the funny part. I was laughing at those comments, to be honest.
Hakim's got another question. The question to Hayk: what do you think Armenia's claim about Turkish F-16s shot down Armenian Su-25s in the beginning of the war? Later on, we did not hear any reaction from NATO or Russia about these allegations.
That the F-16 shot down our Su?
I'll just read it one more time. The question for Hayk. Yeah. What do you think Armenia's claims about Turkish F-16s shot down Armenian Su-25s in the beginning of the war? He says, later on, we did not hear any reaction from NATO or Russia about these allegations.
I mean,
you don't have to answer.
I don't even remember that. I just know that the Sus that we bought, the new ones that we bought from Russia just, I believe, 2 years ago weren't even used during the war because we didn't even have missiles for them. Can you believe it? Pashinyan's government actually bought those fighter jets without buying missiles because Russia wouldn't even sell missiles to foreign nations. They just got it for show. Instead of buying anti-drone weaponry, they bought those just to show them off. That's what Pashinyan's government was all about. It was all done for show. Everything they did was all just to show off things that they didn't really have. And he showed that off on his, BS Citizens Day, I believe it was. And that's one of the reasons why we lost too, is because he deliberately bought stuff that weren't even used and we couldn't even use. And
so I got two questions. One for Hayk and one for John. Hayk, what kind of military hardware did they give you when you got there?
Actually, you talking about guns or like just other type of gear?
You tell me. I'm the
I went prepared.
Host, so tell me.
I went prepared. Again, like I said, when I was in the U.S., I decided to go to Armenia, and possibly join the army. And then a few months after I made that decision, the April 4-day war broke out. And when that broke out, I was like, wow, it's crazy how my intuition was working so well. And I came out here, and I knew another war was gonna break out soon. I just knew that was just a warning shot, as you might call it, And I prepared for it. I had all my gear packed and ready. I had a lot of nice equipment, Maxpedition backpacks, everything I had ready to go. My uniform, my boots, and when I went to the Zinkom, they call it over here, where you go pretty much to get recruited, and I was the only one that was prepared, geared up, ready to go. And they just saw me right away. They just pulled me in. They're like, all right, you go to this bus. You have 10 minutes. Go use the bathroom, do whatever you have to do. They saw me all geared up. They thought I'm some super soldier or whatever. Because most people went with home clothes. A lot of people didn't go, prepared at all. They thought it was going to be another 4-day war where there was going to be a ceasefire within a week or so. That's one of the things that really messed people up too. They didn't fight the war prepared mentally. They thought it was gonna be some quick war and then that's it. And when it took over 2 weeks, they started like panicking, a lot of them. And that's a real thing. They should have prepared these soldiers. They should have prepared these people before sending them off like that. Not everyone was mentally prepared like I was. And whatever they gave us the weapons, the Kalashnikov, the AKM, they call them over here, and just the body armor and the helmet. That's pretty much it. That's the only hardware they really give when it comes to weapons, and then they ship you off.
Now my question's over to John. John, if American had to go to battle, is the military back up to what it needed to be after the current administration that's in there now, as the military budgets have been going up over the last couple of years? Is it back in top form, or what's your thoughts?
Well, the issue with that question is there's so many different answers you could give, because administration, no, America is so behind in administration. There's not enough high command that will let loose, for lack of a better term, American soldiers and American airmen and American Marines. The soldiers, I know plenty of buddies that have gotten sent to Iraq and Afghanistan. The only reason why the war wasn't ended, day one, day two, was restrictions that the administration put in place to make the American soldiers look good. And I mean, I totally understand Geneva Conventions, all these treaties and agreements that the United States have. But even within those restrictions, I think the biggest thing that stops the American soldiers from winning wars is the American high command, the command structure. And I don't know how much you've been paying attention to the home front, at least in the United States and Canada, but if America was invaded unknowingly, if we didn't know there was, an invasion fleet off the coast, they would take so much North American land from the West Coast or the East Coast. They would have so much room to come in and take because there's not soldiers at home. I mean, there's a lot of quote unquote active troops at home at the United States, but they're not infantrymen, they're not mortarmen, they're not howitzer crews, they're not active pilots. There's so few actual engaged infantrymen. And of course, that's a total difference between the training of the United States soldier goes through. That's completely different than how Hayk just talked about. The American soldier's gone through 9 weeks of basic training of any combat, medical, shooting, tactics, all of this in 9 weeks. That's the base. That's before even infantry school. Once you go to infantry school, that's 5-6 more weeks of grenades, saws, machine guns, heavy equipment, all of that's trained in you. And then you're trained on your classification. There's so much training put into an American soldier that even the weakest, skinnied man in the U.S. Army is going to be better than an untrained soldier in another country. And there's no debating that fact. But the issue is, once you come to a professional army that's like Russia is one of the basic examples. Not that we would go to war with Russia, not saying any political sided, but the professional army of the Russian soldiers, some of their best troops, there's just no difference.
I mean, Hayk, do you have any questions for John here? I mean, you guys seem to, know what you're talking about. But I mean, my question for you is, Hayk, I mean, how you feeling? I mean, yeah. I mean, is it?
Oh man, to be honest, after this war, after everything that's been going on, I'm not gonna lie, I'm full of a lot of hate and anger towards this government, towards this regime, because it committed a huge treason, and it hasn't even paid the price yet, and it's still continuing to run our government. I'm just surprised at a lot of Americans that their government has been committing treason for all these decades, and they seem to be like okay with it now. And this is the first time in a long time that this big of a treason has happened in our country. And I don't know, man. I'm just trying to let that anger, I'm just trying to let it fuel me, instead of burning me down. I'm trying to let it not get in the way. I'm trying to think clearly and hopefully use that energy for a better cause, And I feel like I said, something is emerging, something new over here, a new type of maybe nationalism that's going to really wipe out all these traitors from our country, and really put Armenia back on the right path. And I feel like all these Western countries, America, European countries, need to do some deep cleansing of that sort, because it's been riddled with corruption on every single level.
And I couldn't agree with you more there.
Yeah. John,
like the time is coming soon.
And Hayk, I appreciate you answering that question. Thank you. John, now that I've got you on here, I enjoy having both of you on here to ping pong these questions back and forth. But is there another country that will keep America in check right now, military-wise?
The closest one is China's unproven military. I guess that's the closest one. And I mean unproven as in we as a nation haven't seen China's military machine. America hasn't really seen full war. We've seen skirmishes with Nepal and India and all these little, not even wars, just skirmishes that at least I've seen between China and other countries. There hasn't been like the invasion of Iraq with the United States. We took down a country so quickly. It was astonishing to me and the world when I learned about that. But we haven't seen China's military. To me, they're unproven. But with how warfare goes nowadays, there are so many quick changes. If your military isn't able to keep up with the new tactics that are evolved through a war, you won't be able to fight the war anymore.
Yeah, you know, my time in China, I've been going there for 20 years now. And I keep coming out of there and saying to people, you guys don't realize what's going on there. Now, I'm not talking from a military standpoint. Forget the military for a moment, okay? And understand that a country of 1.4 billion, almost 90% plus, are happy with the current situation. Now you might say, well, wait a minute, you know, they're repressed, they can't do this, they're banned from these social networks, they're banned from this. A Chinese person, if they want to go on YouTube, just has to download a VPN, and 5 minutes later, they're on YouTube. They could go on Google. They can go on Facebook. But why don't they go on Google and Facebook?
Because they don't want to.
They have Sino Weibo. They have Douyin, which is your TikTok. But I bet you didn't know it was owned by Douyin and Tencent and Sino Weibo and all these companies. They have their own versions of them in their own languages. It's like me going on the Russian version of Facebook, VK, VKontakte. I wouldn't do it because I'm not Russian, but I would, I'd be on the Facebook part. So I can tell you, my last time I was in China, I turned on all the newses. Yes, I could watch CNN, BBC, Fox, whatever I wanted to do. After a day, I thought, okay, fine. Could I have a beer? Yeah, can have a beer. Could I go out and scream in the streets and call people an asshole? Yeah, I could do that too. And I started to meet friends over the years in China. And this one guy, Joe, he's got quite a big following, a couple million followers on, it's called Watermelon. And that's the YouTube version. It's called Isikwa in China. And I said, Joe, why do people think that your country is everybody silencing you? And he says, I'm not sure what you mean. I said, well, people think that, you guys work for 10 cents a day. And he says, well, we're managing to send more people to universities worldwide. Chinese are buying factories and homes in Western countries. So I guess that argument about they make 10 cents on the dollar is off the table now. He says, we've moved a lot of these clothing factories to other countries like Vietnam and to, Bangladesh and all that, because it's part of the Silk Road. And I said, well, tell me where why do they squash the media? He says, well, the country believes in having one part of information. It's information, whether it's right, wrong, or whatever, it's one information. It doesn't divide unity. And that's when I first heard that word unity. And he says, you don't understand what unity is to Chinese. Look what we've done in 40 years. We've brought 750 million people out of poverty. That's unity. And he says, you know what's wrong? And I said, okay, Joe, tell me what's wrong. Zhao. You're right, Zhao. He says, when I was in Europe, Alex, 2 years ago, I bought 3 books on World War II. I said, okay. I said, and? He said, I read all 3 of the books. I said, why would you buy 3 books on World War II? He says, well, I was in a store. I picked the books off. One was written by this one, and one was written by that one. And then when I was in another country, I picked up another copy of it. He says, why is there 3 different versions to World War II? I said, I don't know. He says, well, all 3 books I read gave me 3 different versions. But he says, if you study Chinese history for the last 5,000 years, there's only one version. And that, to me, is what do we got here? The Russian version of.
I've actually been studying World War because I love World War II as a topic, and I have continuously been trying to figure out what's true because of just how. Sorry, my camera's on the wrong side. How many lies, how many faults, how many non-truths there are. Because that's why I've been trying to learn from Baltic countries, from satellite states around the Russian Federation, the USSR. I've been trying to learn more about what happened there because Western media doesn't portray it. We don't talk about it. We don't talk about China and Japan. We don't talk about those countries. We just skip over.
You should look into this book. It's a good objective book about Hitler's Germany and stuff. Might want to look into it. The author is okay, read that.
Yeah,
Richard
Tedder.
Yeah.
Tedder. Okay.
Yeah. It's a good objective book. Yeah, sure.
I mean,
go ahead. Sorry to cut you off.
The thing is that John, I gotta agree with you on this part. Having a wife that was born in the Soviet Union, and I go out for dinner with her mother here once in a while, and she says to me, "Man, anytime she talks about the good old days, it's about when she was guaranteed a job, guaranteed a vacation, guaranteed a house, guaranteed a good life." And that, and I'm not saying that I'm, agreeing on 100% of the things that she says. But when somebody that's so close to you starts to tell you things that don't actually even calculate, you start to say, what else have I been lied about? Or what else have somebody not told me about? How did I miss this? This area of the world is terrible. I was told it was terrible, and never even bring up the flag and never even cheer, and it's full of this and it's full of that. And I sit back and I go, wait a minute. I'm in a country that can't even question certain parts of history or I'll be put in jail because there's the laws about that. Okay? And that's pretty serious, okay? A lot of nations, and I'm not going to mention it on here because this show would probably be yanked off, but we can't even question certain parts of history because we want to learn. We want to understand, what are we missing? What have we been told? Why haven't we been told this? And it gets so deep that you really say, well, how far back do I got to look now? Like, if and I'll finish my point here, and then you can take over. Just imagine this now, and this is how fast history goes, guys, because we kind of forget. Everything has its labels. The Beatles had its labels. The guy that was with Germany, I'm not going to say the name because I don't want to get the show kicked out here. He has his label. Okay. Can you imagine, fast forward 30 years, if you looked in your history books on the internet, okay, what are they going to write up about the current administration? 30 years forward, looking back, you're going to see some pretty interesting articles about this guy, depending what media you look at. If you look at the left, he's going to be labeled as a and if you look at the right, he's going to be labeled as a national. Okay, you see what I'm getting at here, right? So if you fast forward 30 years and you look back at history, you're going to say, shit, this guy was a bad guy. Or this guy we want him. You never know. There might be laws put in the book that we can't talk about the current administration guy in the future 30 years. So here's a lesson for every viewer here tonight. Go out and buy the last printed version of the encyclopedia and put it in your basement, because everything else on the internet can be modified and changed. And those books are pretty much the last credible piece of thing that is written. Whether they're true or not, at least they can't be bloody well, changed. And you can probably buy them for about $50 on eBay. But anyway, go ahead, gentlemen. Hayk.
No, I was just saying that all those positive things that China has, and China, Japan, they have all those things because a lot of them, they don't have a Zionist problem. You know what I mean? A lot of these Western countries like America and Europe, they have a serious problem like that. I don't want to keep saying the name because I don't want your channel to get removed or this video. But you know what I'm talking about exactly. They don't have
well,
that
you just
problem.
gotta look at the media and what stations. I'll give you a better example. We'll steer away from the word, and we'll throw it on the, since nobody cares about the Asian part. Somebody phoned me up the other day and they said Jack Ma is missing. Jack Ma is one of the richest guys in Asia here. He's the owner of Alibaba. Okay. And they said, Jack Ma is under attack by the Chinese government. They're taking down Jack Ma's company. They want him shut down. They want it over. I said, where are you getting this information? They said, well, I'm getting it from the South China Morning Post. I said, okay. Who do you think owns the South China Morning Post? He goes, I don't know, but it's China writing about it. So, you know, I said, if you wanted somebody to feel sorry for you, what would you do? You'd get somebody to write up an article saying you're under attack, wouldn't you? He goes, yeah. I said, well, the owner of the South China Morning Post is Alibaba. Jack Ma himself owns the newspaper. So a couple of the employees write a nice article that Jack Ma's under attack. The Chinese want to take down his company. And the Chinese are saying, what are you guys talking about? No. We went in, we looked at a couple of numbers, we left the office 2 days later. We're on with it. So that's how easy media is spun everywhere in the world. It ain't just America, man. I mean, you know, in the country I'm in right now, there's certain things that you do not question here. And I know that for a fact. We don't talk about the monarchy here at all. And the laws here on defamation laws on Facebook, you say something bad about a person, and if it's wrong, you go bye-bye. And so...
But that's different. Like, see, those countries like in Europe and America, and even right now in Armenia, they've been usurped by powers that serve other interests. They don't serve the interests of the people. You know,
you're probably right.
And if you look at Europe and anywhere else, you're getting immigrants from all over the world flooding in. But China doesn't have that problem, right? You know, there is no mass influx of European immigrants into China, or even from Africa into China. They don't have any of that problem.
Well, they do. They have a lot of they have a lot of Africans in the Guangzhou Shenzhen area, which is the Silicon Valley. There is, and
per capita, it's not the same. China is like you said,
Japan's the leader. I think Japan had 6 people that sought asylum last year, maybe 6. I think you can. The other thing I wanted to bring up to you guys is what I find the most extraordinary thing that I've ever seen this year is how on earth, and you're talking about media, Hayk, you've nailed it right on the head here. They've managed to silence the president of the United States of America.
Yeah.
They shut him off. Wow. Free speech?
What is something about the United States and media companies that a lot of people are missing is exactly what you guys touched on earlier. There are 3 or 4 actual news companies that own the rest of them. And it's funny because if you look at broadcasts through the 4 different time zones in the United States, 5 with Alaska, they all say the exact same thing. We are not like other news organizations. We're spreading the truth, not lies. They all basically say the exact same thing. And when they all say the same thing, one of them's lying. And that's a big thing with the separation in the United States. Because a lot of people think, you know, Democrat, the left, Republicans, the right. We're Americans. We're a human being. We're people. This is our country. And when media tears us apart, that's to the point where we no longer have a choice. We start tearing each other apart. And that's what I was meaning earlier when you asked me, who will take America down? America is going to take America down. There's no... Sorry, continue.
You know, the funny thing is that somebody said something on the chat here. They said, you think Hollywood would ever make a positive movie about Germany in the war?
They did. They did during World War II.
Who made it? No, who made a positive? Did they really?
Wow.
What was the movie? What was the movie called?
They spread German nationality. It's not one movie; it's a bunch of comics.
Really?
Yes, they spread pro-Hitler. Sorry for saying it, but they spread pro-propaganda his way because there was such a split in the United States between the European issue and the people in the United States. Because after World War I, the United States didn't want to fight another European war. But if you go look it up, there's propaganda that was made in the United States.
I would have never thought that.
Yeah, and that's another thing is that Hollywood, people underestimate Hollywood. And when we talk about other countries, we don't get to see what's happening in other countries. We get to hear what's happening in other countries. That's why I like Patrick. That's why I've liked talking to you two. We don't get to talk to people from other countries anymore. It's so hard to make those connections. It's so hard to hear the truth. And that's why I was talking about this book, the different versions of World War II. We have to piece it together ourselves. And Hayk, I mean, you can add to this with me living in the United States and being a professor. It's so difficult talking to other people in other countries because sometimes they just don't even want to talk to us.
Yeah, and I mean, living in America, it has its ups and downs. You know, for one part, you deal with all these, especially in California, you have all these extreme leftists that you deal with who are completely against the truth. And then, but on the opposite side of the spectrum, there's so much information available that you can enlighten yourself with. So it all depends how you use the internet and all the information given to you. And when I came here and when I have debates with certain people about, let's say, World War II and things like that, and it's so obvious that many of them are brainwashed by Soviet propaganda, and they pretty much saying whatever America was saying about World War II, just from the opposite side of the spectrum. So it's just, it's good to talk to people from different countries, different cultures, and really put the pieces of the puzzle together to really understand what's going on. You can't just rely on one source of news, that's for sure. That's why I've been reading books from all different types of authors and talking to people from all over. It really helps you change your perspective.
And that's something that that's something that I've been talking to people about with I know it's a bad word to say on YouTube, but the bang switches. America has such a different belief in those that even a Canadian can see the drastic difference in government and people's cultures and ideals. Here in the United States, we go and do that all day. We'll spend thousands of dollars just to go shoot bang switches for a day. Like, we'll do that for an entire day. But in other countries, it's almost seen as evil. And when I speak to people that are fighting in foreign wars, fighting in wars that are their ethnic homelands, and they're just saying we're fighting for, our brothers, our sisters, our families, our ancestors. There's such a drastic difference in the United States because we killed off the people that lived here. There are so few Native Americans in the United States now that when you speak of immigrants and all that, the entire United States population is from immigrants. Whoever thinks that they weren't from an immigrant has been lied to. And part of Canada too, with resettlement programs from the UK and New Zealand and Australia. All those things of our ancestors. That's why when you go to Armenia or Syria or Iraq and Iran, so many of those countries don't have many per capita immigrants as like the United States. The United States is still one of the largest immigration hubs of the world. And
I agree with you for whatever America did with the Native Americans. Of course, it was horrible, but America as a country, as a state, it enforced its immigration policies up until 1965. Most of its immigrants came from Europe and places like that. It was only after 1965 where they opened the gates. Same with Europe, not just America. Same with Europe, they opened the floodgates, and now people from all over the world come in and change the demographics of the country. That's the problem. See, China and Japan doesn't have that problem, and now they're trying to do the same in Armenia. They're trying to open the gates, so people from India can come and flood in. India, which has now a bigger population than China, I believe, a larger population. They want to open the gates of Armenia, which has only a population of only 3 million, and let a country that has 1.4 billion, try to flood in. How does
let me
that
try
make
to.
sense? That's the problem. That's another globalist.
Yeah, let me try to kind of answer that one to you, since my wife is an Eastern European. Okay, they are labeled in, and we all know Brexit. Brexit happened, and okay, so I'm a Canadian married to an Eastern European, and during the Brexit, and I was living in Europe at the time, and I kept seeing this part of Europe looking at the Eastern Europeans as this nation that was just, of the lower end of Europeans. That's how she felt for many years. And I went to the country of Lithuania, and I thought, wow, what a beautiful country. What beautiful people. And they all used one very powerful tool, and it was called education. And they all got educated. Some spoke 3, 4 languages. Okay. Now, we look at sometimes by saying, oh, we got to protect our borders, we got to shut it down. In some sense, that's the government's saying, they're saying, we'll be behind you people, we'll make you first, and anybody else comes in, they won't get the good stuff, but we'll give them the okay stuff. So what happens is, countries like the United Kingdom, they invite the Eastern Europeans in when Europe comes in. And they know that they can pay this European worker, at the time, a little bit less money. And they'll say, can you, and bear with me, guys. I want you to follow me through this story, because this is kind of how it happened. So a lady in her mid-40s says, yes, I can wash your laundry for you, sir. Okay, no problem. How much? Well, I'll do it for this. Well, wow, that's great. He tells his wife, wow, we got this great lady from Eastern Europe. She's helping us out with the house, and, she's not costing very much, and this is great. And then, a couple weeks later, the lady says, hey, ma'am, I noticed that, you're spending a lot of time cooking. I can do that too. So the guy says, well, okay, let's, and for just a little bit extra, I can cook for you too and clean the house as well. Okay, so everything's going well. And the next thing you know, a couple more weeks down, and hey, sir, I noticed that you spend a couple hours a week washing your car. Can I wash your car for you? Just for a little bit extra. And he says, great. I can go out and I can have a good time with my friends, and I don't have to wash my car. We don't have to cook. I don't have to clean. And actually, this lady now is going to take care of our kids while we're out, and I can go out with my wife and spend all the time with my friends. So a couple months later, this lady's who's taking care of the family from Eastern Europe, she's in London and she's working for this family, and says, sir, I noticed that you're doing Excel spreadsheet for work. I can do that for you. And he says, really? Yeah, I can, for a little bit extra, I can do that for you. Oh, okay. So, he pays her a little bit extra money. She does his work that he's doing from home and taking care of the kids, washing the car, doing all that. Well, fast forward a couple months, Ben goes into work, and he notices a lady from Eastern Europe in the office. And he says, what are you doing here? She says, well, what do you mean? And the boss says to Ben, what are you doing here? And he says, well, I work here. And he says, well, not anymore, you don't. Because I've got this person who has done this and this and this and this, and you are out of a job. And people wonder why the hard work of certain nations succeed. it's education, it's hard work, and it's a little bit of skill. So over 3 million people from Eastern Europe left that part of Europe. And it was a major brain drain to that part of Eastern Europe, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. They lost a lot of smart people to the United Kingdom, to all these countries, to help build that region for the last 10 years. And now,
Armenia.
right? And I'm not saying anything about Brexit. I'm not British, so it's not my right. I can't vote. I don't have a say. All I'm going to say is I had an Eastern European wife. Her family contributed in some way. They paid their taxes. They did their work. They didn't go out for handouts there. They didn't do any of this stuff. They went in there and they worked hard to help because they felt it was an opportunity for them as well. Well, fast forward to today when the pandemic is here and Britain is out of the United Kingdom. And boy, oh boy, they need 47,000 medical workers to help them out. And most of them have left back to Poland, back to their motherland. They don't want us here. So we'll go home. Can you imagine working and, Hayk, I think you're going to see where I'm going with this. Can you imagine putting 20 years into a country that's you've worked hard and then you wake up one morning and you're not welcome? And that's what's happened.
Yeah, that's different. But I mean, that's why, they should, like countries like America, Europe, and even Armenia right now. I'm just going to say for Armenia right now, I'm not going to let John talk about America right now. I'm just talking about Armenia. We should prevent that from the beginning. We should let the Indians, instead of letting them come here and pursuing their destiny here in Armenia, they should do that in their country. We shouldn't let it come to that level.
Hayk, what if they helped advance your country? For example, please hear me out on this.
Mm-hmm.
China comes to the doors of Armenia tomorrow and says, we want to put $60 billion of investment in this country. Don't worry. Every Armenian is going to benefit. And yes, you're going to pay it back eventually. But we're going to give you the best roads, the best railway, the best airports, the best this, the best that. And while you're at it, your GDP starts to go through the roof. Your production starts to go through the roof. And guess what? Your government budget gets a nice piggy bank to buy some nice things to protect their ass. That is the difference of having outside help from other nations.
That's different. You're talking about investment. I'm talking about immigration. That's what we're talking about.
It goes hand in hand.
One thing on that. That's kind of the treasure trove of China. I think a lot of countries forget that. Well, they still think of the lazy Chinaman 60 years ago, right after World War II. That's not a thing anymore. That's why America has gone down the drain. We have lost our working spirit. That's why Europe is
because it depended on immigrants. Because it depended on
not even that.
For everything.
We got lazy. It's not just because of immigrants. It's because of the mindset that people put. It's the mindset of, well, if I can get a cheaper person to do this, well, why do I?
Exactly.
But that's
not the same thing they want to do over here. They want to bring in those Indian immigrants, pay them less for the work done, and that's going to make us lazier.
That's not the issue at hand. The immigration isn't the problem in these scenarios. It's the problem of a bigger country wanting to invest and make even higher than that.
I'll give you an example. I'll give you a good example, Hayk. What country was it? It was an African country. Just watched it the other day. And guys, I'm going to find this show for you. You're going to love it. They went in there. The Chinese went in there and they built a jeans factory to make jeans and all this stuff. But they hired actually the citizens of the country. They only brought their management in from China. They built an entire railway and they trained all the conductors in China, but they brought I can't remember what country it is. It's going to come back to me. But they went in there and they invested so much money to the point where China put a bloody military base in that country. I'm going to find it. So you guys keep chatting. I'm going to find it because that says something to you right there. Imagine a country comes in and says, all right, Hayk, imagine if a country came to you tomorrow and says, Hayk, I'm going to invest $70 billion in Armenia. And just so I got your back, I'll put a military on the corner part of your country. You okay with that? Are you? I'm going to ask. Are you okay with that right now?
Well, we have
not a bad deal, huh?
Well, first of all, I'm all for national sovereignty. So if that affects national sovereignty in any way, then I'm not okay with it. So it's hard to say right now what I would agree with, what I wouldn't agree with. I just know that I wouldn't want the security of my country on other people's hands. I would first.
It's a scenario. It was a scenario.
Yeah, I know.
That's a very difficult question.
Yeah, it is a difficult question right now to answer. I have to be in that situation, but
just gonna see what country it was.
I want my country's security to be in our hands first and foremost before letting someone else come here and trying to do something like that.
Yeah, it was guys. It was Ethiopia.
All right.
And the Chinese went in there and they massively invested in everything, and they said, and people were, other countries said, oh, don't let China in there. It's terrible to let China in there. And the Chinese said, well, France, this was your overseas territories. You haven't done anything here to these people in the last 50 years. You had your shot. Why didn't you take it? Why didn't you do something? So the French didn't do anything. It showed an old dilapidated train station that was in its glory about 50 years ago. So the Chinese said, well, we like the port here. Thank you very much. This is great for us to get our goods here. And since bringing 800 million people out of poverty, let's try Africa. And while you're at it, and I guess the leaders of Ethiopia said, well, we would like a bit of security, and they said, sure, let's put a military base here. So that's where I'm saying is, you can have that national hike, you can have that sovereignty that you want, but maybe there's somebody there that understands that you want that sovereignty. But if you put two brains together and come up with a solution where you never want something to ever happen again, you want your friends and family and generations to be safe. You want economic prosperity. Maybe you got beautiful things in the ground that need to be mined out, that there's just not investment there. Maybe there's massive infrastructure projects that need to be built, but it's just not there right now. And you have this one country that is feared by everybody, and people can agree with me and disagree with me on this program. Whatever. I'm just telling you guys what I see. This country comes in, it invests a whack load of money.
Yeah.
It gets from point A to point B. It gets its job done. And this is a country that doesn't really fire shots over the last 40 years. And these are the bad guys?
There's a very big difference between the way how China's imperialism is going and America's imperialism used to be. Because America's imperialism used to be, we'll help you make a better country by getting rid of the old regime and then installing basically an American puppet in a lot of these countries. But the way China was like, well, trying to realize that's just a lose-lose battle because you don't gain anything from it. And the way China is seeing it around the world, I forget the Middle Eastern country, but they set up one of the largest oil refineries known in the world in one of the Middle Eastern countries near an oil field. And they're like, hey, you do that, we'll put some troops next to it, even protect it. You don't have to worry about a thing, and we'll pay you for it. And I was astonished because, like, we as Americans have such a high debt ratio that there's no way we can get out of that. And honestly, one of the quickest ways to get rid of it would be an American civil war to just bankrupt us.
Yeah, that's true.
that's a horrible thing to say, but that's the quickest way to get rid of it, because there's no feasible way with interest rates and the amount of money that's flowing through America to go back to it. Even if we got rid of all of the corruption in the United States, even if all of the majority of the working class in the United States, that's dwindling, by the way, because of this pandemic and economy, we couldn't pay that back.
That trade deficit that was supposed to be under control with tariffs is actually gone from 55 billion to 75 billion offset now. But now we're starting to see, now this is what I'm talking about, guys. We're starting to see what I always see. China's not investing. It's buying the world to colonize. They do it to poor countries. I get
Alex,
what you guys
sorry to cut you off. My,
yes.
My Bluetooth turned off.
I can still hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can barely hear you. 1 second.
Yeah, take your time, man.
Okay. Yeah,
take your time. We're all good here. So, here, Stan's got a point here. But all I'm saying is that there's this fear of China taking over the world. Well, you know what? We're letting them. It's not like they're, and it's not like they're going, John, to these countries and saying, all right, Ethiopia, we want to spend $60 billion because our plan is we're taking you. They could take you anyway. They don't need to spend $60 billion and build dual railroad tracks, brand new airport, and entire, $31 billion port all the way up the bloody African coast. People don't seem to want to agree at all on this, that it's just this media. China bad. We're in the West. We're good.
Oh, no, I completely agree with you. That's the media mindset now.
And for us to say it as Westerners, we're even doubly bad. How dare you say that?
I mean, not every country is good. That's just a fact. Every country has a fault. You can't have the greatest country in the world. There's always something that's happened either in the past or nowadays. And the United States, it has lost its role on the world scale. Yes, we're still powerful. Yes, we will still be having a couple of years of this. But the Second American Civil War could happen tomorrow. There are so many things that other countries don't understand within the United States. Secession movements. I know somebody was on here earlier talking about how the California secession movement. The West Coast is so divided, and you can probably agree with me here. There is such a divide in the United States between all these things. And while we're divided and while we're fighting each other, China's just growing. China focused so hard on themselves 20, 30 years ago that now they're reaping the benefits of it. That they're able to talk to all these countries. They're able to invite all of these people into the truth of let us help you. Let us make this business deal, not political deal, business deal. And the United States likes to bring that up as that's attack against democracy.
Yeah. And this is where Armenia can really benefit. Let's face it. This could be the bottom, right? You felt your leader has really committed treason to the country, right? Hayk, right?
Definitely.
Right? Okay.
Of course.
So let's say this is the bottom. Let's say this is as shitty as it's going to get. And somebody comes in, and this is the opportune time for somebody to come in and rally behind that person that needs that help, or that nation that needs the help. How many nations have picked themselves up off the ground with some help? A lot. And then some of them have not. But you guys geographically are in a very interesting position where somebody's going to pay attention. And come hell or high water, someone's going to come in there. Not, as John says, they might come in there from a business angle, not from a political angle. And there's been this little country for the last 40 years doing all these little deals all over the place. and it's been sleeping. No one's been paying attention to it. They're still not paying attention to it. They're just bad people that, we're being told they're being bad. And, okay. All right. What have they done bad? Well, they can't go on Facebook. Okay.
Well, like you said, I mean, like John said, there's no perfect country. There's good and bad. Every country has positives and negatives. First and foremost, us in Armenia, we need to learn from our mistakes. We need to learn from the mistakes of other nations as well, like America, Europe, the immigration problem, the hijacking of the media and everything. That needs to be taken care of first and foremost. And we need to accept personal responsibility. I mean, that's the number one thing, and we can't rely on other nations' investments. Like I said earlier, we have to produce something. We have to give something that others don't have. We can't just rely on people just coming and helping us, giving us a hand. That's the problem. That's the problem. The past 30 years, Armenia has only relied on investments. They never even thought about producing something. Everything over here, there's nothing. The very few things here are made in Armenia. That's the problem.
But you're
all just talking about just bringing in tourists, bringing in money, bringing in investments. That's the mentality that we have to fix.
Hayk, you're almost preaching what I've been telling you. There's going to be a day where somebody knocks on Armenia's door and says, "Hey guys, let's teach you guys how to kick ass in this industry. Let's teach you how to kick ass in this industry."
I'm all open for collaborating. I mean,
I think that day is going to come faster than you know it, which is great news. Here's something else I want you to think about that my wife told me that I never knew, which was another bloody, the hypocrisy of some of the people. She said to me, "Alex, what's this thing about people taking out 30-year mortgages or 40-year mortgages in Western countries?" I said, "Well, honey, that's normal. You go to university, you get out of university, you got $100,000 of debt. There's Visa and MasterCard waiting for you. Visa, MasterCard gives you, hey, are you out of school? Yeah, I'm out of school. You'll be getting a job soon, won't you? Yeah, I'll be getting a job. No problem. We'll give you a credit card at, 59 APR a year. No problem. Percent, Well, we'll instantly give you a $20,000 credit limit. And you got how much in student loans? 107,000. No problem. Don't worry about that. We'll approve you right away. And on the way to get that credit card, we want to give you a finance for a car. And don't forget, once you got that car, you got to park it in a 2-door or 3-door garage home. So we'll leverage you right up to the yin yang. And don't worry, we'll give you a job to go along with that. So 3 of my sisters are currently on that program, we'll call it. The white picket fence, car in the driveway, credit card leverage program. And the Canadian wet dream. So I said to my sister, "Well, when are you going to live?" She says, "When I retire." I said, "Okay. When's your house paid off?" She says, "Well, 65. I said, "Okay. Well, lost my father at 56, so kudos to that if she's going to outlive my dad, which I hope she does." But I said, "Do you understand that the government statistically knows pretty much to the month when a person who worked in this industry and that industry, when they're going to die?" Insurance companies know this pretty much down to a month. They got statistics, who's insurable, who's not insurable. So I said, you'll pay 40 years into your pension plan. You'll get out. You're taxed on your pension plan still. And you still pay property tax on your houses. You might own your house, but you still pay a whopping bunch of property tax on it. So technically, you don't really own your house. So by the time you're 70, you're dead anyway, financially, and anywhere. So then I said to my wife, "Well, wait a minute." She says, "I don't understand it." And she says, when the Soviet Union collapsed, we all got vouchers. And I said, "Honey, what are you talking about?" She said, "Well, we got vouchers. My mom got vouchers. My father got vouchers." I said, "What vouchers for what?" And she says, "Well, it's like this. We built this great union together. It disbanded. If you were a baker, pilot, a banker, whatever, If you're a baker, you were given 2.5 vouchers, for example. With that 2.5 vouchers, you were given a house and a country house back to you for free. So 93.5% of Eastern Europeans own their house without a mortgage.
That's unbelievable.
On the flip side,
in Armenia.
so that's what I'm telling you. Look at the opportunity that you guys have. You don't have $28 trillion of debt looking down your throat. You have a home, my friend, and I appreciate that you've battled for it, and my hat goes off to you on that. But you have foundation and gravel where other people don't have that and may never have that. And that's where I really start to understand the Eastern Europeans, where my wife says, well, our house is paid for. I said, you don't realize, honey, when I met her, I said, you're 22. You don't have mortgage payments for the rest of your life. What are you talking? Like, do you know how much a head start that is? She said, well, our wages aren't that much. I said, but you can feed yourself and keep the lights on. And you have the opportunity as a European to work in 27 other countries.
That's a dream in a Western country.
What a great time to be on Earth. But as you say, Hayk, there's still countries that says, we're not happy about that. So in 5 years, they're going to have a sit down with little Mikey and say, yeah, Mikey, you had the opportunity to travel in 27 and 28 countries, but we voted against that. So you can just work in one. So sometimes there's an understanding and a misunderstanding. I'm not here to answer all these things, but all I can say is you might not feel at this time, after going through what you've gone through on that this really sucks. But if people still have their property and still at least have that land, that's 90% of the battle right there. Hang on to that and make something out of it.
Yeah.
Because that's what you got to do. I mean, I don't think I could live back in Canada. I don't know if I could handle how things are structured back there. I mean, I don't know. There's no property tax in Eastern Europe, and even in Asia here. In Asia, the property tax on a 150-meter condo in the city center of Bangkok is $9 a year. And if anybody wants to question me on it, I'll see if I can grab my tax bill. But
hey, Alex,
yes,
sorry,
thank you for coming on the program.
I have to go soon. My dog he's bugging.
All right. Anyway, John,
it was a very interesting conversation. To do it again.
Let's do it again. We can talk about any hundreds of topics. I just didn't want to kill the Armenian topic for you. I thought that after a while it might be a bit draining.
I can keep going. It's just I haven't fed my dog all day. So,
John, if you can comment on this video later, I'd love to have you back on the program as well, and maybe even some of my programs that I have on my channel. That would be great to have. Everybody, we really appreciate you coming together, hearing it firsthand from Hayk on his experiences in Armenia is amazing. Patrick Lancaster is probably sitting watching this program going, Jesus, I can't believe we've turned the keys over to these guys. But thank you, Patrick.
It was such a good time. The time flew by, I didn't even notice it.
And thanks for everybody and Game Night John. Thank you so much. Please, John, if you can send us a message, you can go on my page, Reporterfy Media. It's in the link there. You'll look in the About Reporterfy Media. Drop me an email there. I'd like to hook up with you. And everybody, we'll try to get a show in the next couple of days. We'll pick up another topic, and I think we should, Hayk, if you got some spare time next week, I'd love to have you back, and we can talk about some other things. Because hey, the world can change in a few days, that's for sure.
Oh, definitely. Looking forward to it.
Thank you very much, Hayk. I appreciate it, John. And everybody, once again, Patrick is a crowdfunded independent journalist. You can donate to him. Just look at the description down below in the box there, whether it's PayPal, whether it's you name it. He's got it there. Buy him a coffee or whatever. He'd greatly appreciate it. And thank you, Patrick, for giving us your platform tonight to share a bunch of ideas. And thank you to the audience for keeping it very cool. I think most of them did. Anyway, a big shout out and goodbye to everybody. Thank you, gentlemen. You have yourself a great night. We're going to end the program here. And thank you. Take care. God bless. Be safe. Bye-bye.